Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight. I'm your host, Alexis J. Soto, joined by Mr. Peter Martinez and Ms. Alexis Moreno, coming over from Fantasy Fair Podcast, which has been nowhere, apparently, but there's that. Kyle was supposed to be with us tonight, but he decided he didn't want to at the last minute, so there's that. Well, what's happening tonight? This is the podcast that brings you all the latest stories coming out of the world of movies, and what is bigger right now than, of course, the spider in the room, the spider in the theaters, which apparently is giving some people COVID. This is Spider-Man No Way Home, easily the biggest movie of the year, and we'll be discussing all of the news as well as, most importantly, what we thought of this movie. Because we've been talking about the film for months on end, anywhere from trailers to leaks to expectations. And yeah, this is our show today on Red Spotlight number 366. It's been a week, guys. I'll tell you that, and it's been kind of a bit overwhelming, to be honest with you, trying to cram in as much content as possible. Of course, just this past weekend we all saw, or at least Peter, Kyle, and myself went to go see Spider-Man for the Thursday night preview for 7:35 p.m. which that was something. Of course, I think also Alexis saw that film the same time in where she lives with David, and so we all kind of at one point or another had the same, we saw the movie at the same time. Mm-hmm. But then just over the weekend, I wanted to go see it a second time so I can get my thoughts straightened out. So I went to go see it again on a late night on Saturday. And then the next day, because Kyle hadn't seen it yet and he was interested in it, we went to go see West Side Story before it was booted out of the theaters, which it will be in 5 minutes. To make room for Sing 2, which is the next international sensation by Illumination. And just in the past couple of days, I've been trying to, all of this happening, I couldn't finish my Spider-Man movie rewatch before actually seeing the new one, so I still needed to go back and rewatch Spider-Man 3, which I did, then Spider-Man Homecoming, then Spider-Man Far From Home, and since because we're seeing The Matrix tomorrow, I need to watch all 3 Matrix films in the span of 24 hours.
Did you do it?
I'm almost done. I got I have I'm halfway through the third act of the last movie. So
what did you think of them?
They're good. They're really good.
Okay.
And I'm pumped up to see the 4th movie, but I'm gonna see that tomorrow alongside you. Mm-hmm. But then also hopefully Nightmare Alley. Oh, and by the way, Hawkeye has a new episode tonight. So I'm just
there's a lot of stuff.
There's too much. This is too much. I don't remember a time when I've just been so overwhelmed, and then just these last 2 weeks has just been so much happening. It's crazy.
Thanks, Obama.
So I don't know how you guys are handling all of the content.
I'm not.
We're not. Clearly.
There's no attempt at that point.
I've watched 3 seasons of Superstore with America Ferrera. That's what I did.
What have I done?
Or rather, what have you seen?
Yeah.
Who have you seen? Not Kyle.
You know what I've been doing a lot? I've been going, because they have I haven't actually been watching new movies. I've been watching old movies at the movie theater.
That's the best.
So that's been fun. I saw Elf. I saw
Elf?
Gremlins.
Oh, God. Oh, Gremlins. That's cool.
That one was really fun. And I didn't know that David had never seen it before.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
So that's really
Interesting.
exciting.
That's an awesome way to see it for the first time.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And so I've done that a few times. I've been watching a lot of cooking shows because they kind of require no actually paying attention. I think my brain is fried from school, so I've just been dead.
It's been an interesting time, and as far as like the status of our minds is concerned, I completely forgot to mention that in just those couple of days where I was just seeing movies, it just so happened that like between the first time I saw Spider-Man and the second time I saw Spider-Man, which was Thursday and Saturday, Kyle and I went to visit Nettie, and we went to go to LA to see a Cinespia presentation of Bridget Jones' Diary, which was like an interactive, just screening an old movie at this really like old, like over 100-year-old like building or theater anyway.
Those are always fun. Whenever, because I follow them on Instagram, and whenever they post like their events, they look really cool.
You might see our pictures on there. Whatever. We took a couple of pictures with some Christmas sweaters. I had a particularly unique Christmas themed attire, which was interesting. So keep an eye out for those images. You might just see us there.
Sounds like a threat. What do you?
Well, it's because it's well, you'll see it.
You're not making it better.
It's just like it's not.
You sound like
it's not
Papa
going to be
John.
any better.
The day of reckoning will come.
Yeah, so that's where we're at. That's kind of where things are at, and Christmas is happening in a couple of days, which is hard to believe.
Really? But it happens this time every year.
It's hard to believe how quickly it's come already, considering how fast everything else is moving along. So, anyway, by the way, we're going to go see 2 movies tomorrow, right? Which is Matrix and Nightmare Alley. But at the same time, there are still other films that they'll be playing in theaters out, if we're lucky enough to even get a screening at this point, because as I've been sharing with you guys all weekend, as you've seen online, there have been a lot of films from a lot of different filmmakers that have basically been like evicted from their previously negotiated screenings at a lot of theaters to make room for Tom Holland and Zendaya. Kind of sad but hilarious the way some of the people are putting it on Twitter. But Licorice Pizza and The King's Man are also other films that are playing during the holidays at the movies right now, or during after Christmas. So
I feel like Kingsman and Matrix are gonna bomb.
I think everything's gonna bomb that's not Spider-Man. Look at where we're at right now. We're just off the heels of Nightmare Alley and West Side Story completely crashing and burning. Look at this at the same time. Licorice Pizza, Matrix, Kingsman, and Sing 2. I don't think anybody is going to the movies right now to see any of them. They're going to see Spider-Man.
It made more in its opening weekend than Infinity War. Than Infinity War. People love their Spider-Man.
In a pandemic.
Yeah, that's
in a pandemic that's currently seeing a bit of a surge. To be exact,
most
you said
impressive.
Avengers Infinity War in May of 2018, not in a global pandemic, grossed $257 million at its opening weekend domestic. This past weekend, in a bit of a surge, a late-stage surge in a global pandemic, Spider-Man No Way Home grossed $260 million at the domestic box office, and it is now the 3rd film in history to open worldwide with $600 million. Over, I should say, $600 million. Automatically crushing the competition as far as any other Marvel film. I think the highest that any other Marvel film has made in theaters so far was 430 some, which was Shang-Chi. So off the bat, that just completely like TKO'd all of the other contenders and everything. But that's where we stand right now. And all of this without having been able to secure a release date in China.
Wild.
I didn't think it would be. I didn't think this was even possible, considering where we are, but with the pandemic standards. But you know what? This is an interesting conversation.
It helps when people just stop watching literally everything else.
It does. So that's a great segue to what this next question would be. Does the excuse "we're still in a pandemic" count anymore when it because we still are in a pandemic.
Yeah,
We're still in year 2. We're in a surge, but the question remains: is that a legitimate excuse when we've seen every other film bomb? But hey, look at how good Spider-Man did. Look at these numbers. Do not suggest we're in a pandemic, considering how great Spider-Man did.
Yes, because everyone, all the pandemic did was hasten this trend because we're still in a pandemic, people are a lot pickier about what they will go to see at the movies. So they go like, I know for a fact I'm watching that Spider-Man movie, so I'm just not going to watch anything else.
Yeah.
And that's just back when people would be like, oh, it's a Friday night, let's go to the movies, let's do this, no, do that. People don't do that as much anymore, obviously, because, you know, something happened. Well, then go to, you know, Corona. So when they say, okay, when I do go to the movies, it's going to be for a very specific movie that I really, really want to watch. That's all that happened.
Mm-hmm.
It hastened the transition to movie theaters just being Marvel machines. This is kind of off topic, but what bothers me more than that is the people that explicitly call for that, where they say like, well, this is a good movie, but it's not a blockbuster, so it's a streamer. I hate those people more because they're explicitly they're saying they want that future, and I fucking hate it. Because I guarantee you, I've seen some people where it's like, oh yeah, Nightmare Alley, but it's not Spider-Man. You don't need to see it on a big screen. You can just stream it later. Like shit.
I'll give
like
you an
that.
example. I'll give you 2 examples of we always mention Miss Randolph, right?
Oh yes, Your Love.
Both Luca and Being the Ricardos are films where she said, who would want to watch that in a theater? It's a streamer. That kind of mentality.
I hate that shit. Shut the fuck up. Those used to be the only films you would watch in a movie theater. Like that was it. That was the hit. This idea of it, like if it's not a major event filled movie with lots of CGI and action and cameos and moments where your audience is supposed to stand up and cheer, then it shouldn't be seen in a movie theater. That's so fucking stupid to me. So people unconsciously making that decision, it sucks, but I don't necessarily hate them for it. But people that are actively saying like, oh yeah, no, like
only going for those specific movies.
Yeah, like saying like, yeah, the only movies you should be seeing in a movie theater are those kinds of films. That's where it's like, okay, fuck you. I don't like that shit.
Yeah. So I mean, good for Spider-Man, I guess. And this is the power of
I saw someone pointing out that he's in 3 of the top 5 grossing films of all time. Or
Spider-Man?
opening, yeah.
He's in 3 of the
Tom
top
Holland.
4. Oh, Tom Holland. Oh, well, yeah, all the Marvel movies. Endgame,
Infinity War, and No Way Home.
Yeah. Now go look at his box office for non-Marvel films and get back to me.
Nobody watched those movies.
They're trash. Like that Uncharted film that's just gonna bomb. And why do you think he's fine doing another Spider-Man trilogy?
I mean, that's what happens when you let Sony dictate. Like all those films that, by the way, that bomb have been Sony. Yeah, so yeah. Yep. Basically, that's where we're at. I don't know. It's an interesting time. That's where we're at. And also The Matrix Resurrection, that's what it's called. That's the last movie that's going to be with this hybrid release of HBO Max and in theaters. How do you guys feel about this? Just as a quick aside, 1 year later after this was announced, and we all know the hullabaloo this caused when this was first announced. Do you think this was worth it? Because to me, this has been an absolute failure in every level whatsoever. I don't think this did what a lot of people thought this would do for HBO Max. Maybe a bit here and there, but ultimately, what still ended up being the result was all of these films for Warner Brothers were sacrificed.
Mm-hmm.
I think what they need to learn is to sell a streamer, or like a streaming website, you need a hit show.
You need shows, any show.
But mostly a hit show.
Yeah.
Like Apple TV. Apple TV doesn't have shit. They literally have like 3 movies and a couple commercials. Like that's the extent of their catalog. But they got fucking Dave Lasso or whatever his name is.
Mm-hmm.
Ted Lasso. Dave Lasso.
They got that guy. And guess what? That got buzz, and I bet you that did good numbers.
It won the Emmy for Best Comedy Series. I mean, it got a bunch of
then
buzz.
They had that
chill
other
out.
one with Jennifer Aniston.
Dave Lasso is
The morning show.
Okay.
Ted Lasso.
Sure.
The morning show.
Mm-hmm. Which also she won an Emmy.
At the same time, I think she was nominated. I'm not sure if she won for it. But either way, the thing is, they also have other like smaller stuff, like that film, The Tragedy of Macbeth, will be on Apple TV Plus. So if you want to see that one, which I have, so I guess I'll see that. That's the movie with Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand, if you weren't aware of it. But it's a black and white, interesting, experimental looking movie, from what I understand. So
a streamer.
There's that. Yeah. But the thing is, you're right. They need a hit TV show. HBO Max never had what Disney Plus had to launch with, which was The Mandalorian. And they think that the Peacemaker show will do that. I don't know though. I don't know it'll be that. I'm not questioning as far as the quality of it. I just don't think it's gonna have the appeal.
If nobody
of it
saw the movie, then
basically, right?
If no one gave a shit about the movie, why would
but
they
people do like John Cena, so I don't know.
Not enough to see his films. I don't know. I mean, as
we'll
the
watch
only one
it
here with personal experience, interacting with John Cena.
Oh my god!
I will of course be watching the show as
a personal friend of John Cena.
I mean, I call him John, but it's cool.
Wow. Wow. That's something. But no, I think if anything, maybe the only good that came out of this decision was lower the bar a little bit for Dune to secure a sequel. Although, of course, again, like, because Dune was on HBO Max, it wasn't, I think, it didn't require me having to go back to the theater and see it again. I could just watch it on my TV, which I did.
That's rude.
That is
I know.
rude.
You are part of the problem.
You're the definition of the problem.
Although, technically all of us are part of the problem because we didn't go out and see it in IMAX. So, where it made its real money.
There's fucking IMAX theater near us. Okay.
There is.
Where?
2 hours away.
Okay, shut the fuck up.
We went to go see West Side Story and Being the Ricardos 2 hours away.
Because I had to drop you off.
Nobody forced you.
Oh, you shut. Okay.
Nobody forced you.
Oh,
Nobody
whatever.
forced
Okay.
you. I don't even know what point this is.
Exactly.
Anyway, yeah, it's been a year. I don't know how much things will change, quite frankly, the next year. And I don't want to talk too much more about it because I'm kind of depressed about that. So
It'll get worse.
Let's not.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, so Spider-Man, No Way Home.
You know what pisses me off? They always use that song in every fucking trailer.
Did you say thong?
Again,
It sounded like
you attack my accent, you bigoted piece of crap. Okay. Not everyone grew up here in America and learned perfect English from the second they were born. Sorry.
English was my second language, by the way.
Okay, well then you shouldn't be such a bigot about it, okay? You're self-hating.
I'm not. What? Okay, continue what you were saying. You hate the fact that they use the classic Spider-Man theme.
Use the classic Spider-Man theme in every fucking trailer and every fucking MCU Spider-Man film. Talking Homecoming, talking Too Far Away From Home, talking We Can't Go Back Home. Every one of those films' trailers use the theme, and then they never use it in the film.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Dumb. Put it in the movie, you cowards.
So it has been a long time coming, this movie, and for weeks Peter and I have really been diving deep as to like what we thought was going to be the outcome of us going into this movie and then walking out the other end of it. And I went back and listened to what we thought we were going to feel.
You got the tapes?
Well, we always do. But in this case, I went back and listened to them.
Ms. Moreno, did you know that when we were arguing about what constitutes a film and whether shit should be included in the MCU list, he literally contacted Letterboxd and asked them direct questions. You see what a fucking insane person he is?
I loved it.
He's insane. Petty doesn't begin to cover it.
Oh my god. That is fucking funny.
Pettiness may very well be relevant in this conversation. I won't deny that, but nothing will stop in my way from getting the truth. And Letterboxd definitely
your
supplied
journalistic
that.
integrity. I'm sorry. That's what it was. Okay.
I'm sorry. I just couldn't believe how surprised you were that I actually came prepared for a show. I mean, seriously. You were the one for the past year and a half that was lying to people about what constituted a film because of what was on Letterboxd, and I corrected the record.
Letterboxd contradicted what I said, first of all. And second of all...
I think they pretty much did. They showed you that you have been saying pretty much lies the entire time for the past year and a half. And I don't think we can talk about more about this without going to a 40-minute rant, so we should just move on beyond this because we're never going to get to Spider-Man at this point.
Ahead of time. Yeah, okay, fine.
We're just not. I mean, whatever the point was, it was funny and everybody laughed. But it was.
I started a joke.
Yeah, that's how it ended too.
Laughing.
That's how it was.
But I can't see the joke is on me.
Okay. Needless to say, a lot of us had a very pessimistic attitude about what this movie would be like. It's been no secret, Alexis included. She hasn't been a part of many of the shows, but we have had our, off-air conversations, and she herself had a lot of the same reservations that Peter and I did about this movie. We all knew...
I hated the idea of this movie. I think I was the single biggest person alive who hated the idea of this movie.
But to be fair, none of us were really happy with it.
For sure.
We all knew.
I just hated it.
We all knew
more.
what the...
Yeah.
Okay, Peter, you win. You hated it the most. You got the award.
It's not about winning. If it was, I would have.
It seems that way. It's
that.
like...
That's all I'm saying.
Okay. We all were aware of the leaks before the fact because in a lot of ways... knowing the leaks ahead of time to a film we had a lot of trepidation about last time in 2019. We all know the movie helped cope with the inevitable disappointment and devastation.
Imagine if you would have seen that movie without knowing.
Oh my god. I would have my jaw would have been on the floor within the first 5 minutes. I would have been like,
somehow Palpatine returned.
Okay, well, before we start talking about the movie, do you think you would have reacted that way without knowing any of the leaks to this movie? Now coming out the other end of it?
You don't know how I feel about the movie right now. I'll get into it.
Okay.
The thing is, we had a lot of problems, conceptually speaking, with what this movie was going for. we had a lot of extensive issues with the fact that this felt like Marvel was inserting yet another gimmick, and prioritizing that over a story that was clearly set up in the last film. So we went to go see it, and I will say, this isn't going to go the way that I thought it was, at least how I thought it would go like a week ago. But before we get into that, as we like to do with every kind of review, I like to give everybody a bit of context about how we felt with the recent Spider-Man movies. So I'll start off with this. I did not grow up with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. I only recently found them thanks to Peter a few years ago in 2017.
Oh, her face. Ooh, she does not like that.
No, this isn't anything new. It's not. This was long documented because we did a whole audio commentary series.
He actually saw them like... Oh, wow. He saw them like a day after Guardians 2, wasn't it? Or like a week.
That is
maybe
wild.
Yeah. I know. Hey, I'm watching the Matrix for the first time in my life this week. I've missed a lot of things.
Spider-Man's a different story, though.
He's the guy that saw The Sixth Sense for the first time in his life this year.
Yep.
And was surprised by the twist ending.
Last year.
He didn't know the twist ending.
It was last year. It was 2020.
I had assumed, but until we started discussing it,
just like
everyone
knowledge.
knows. You don't have to see the movie to
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was common knowledge. But I mean, hey, that twist worked for me, and I was surprised.
That's good.
So at least
I don't know how
better in the movie for me.
Your life this long, and it's just like, oh yeah, I guess he's Bruce Willis is a ghost. Oh my god.
I don't know, man. For a lot of the early 2000s, I was a loner and a loser. Nobody talked to me, so maybe that's what it was.
Pop in a movie.
I did, but not those kind of movies. Like those are, I don't know. Like
The Sixth Sense is like
too busy.
The only scary movie that I could watch and I actually enjoyed when I was young.
So what I was saying is, back in 2017, we did a audio commentary series where it would be like after I'd seen the films, and then I went and we did, Peter, myself, and Kyle did commentaries on the first three Raimi films. And if it hadn't been established up until recently, I loved those movies then, and I love those movies now, and even more so. I just recently rewatched all of them this past week, and those films have, I think, maybe the definition of aging like fine wine. They seemingly work just as well, if not better, today for a lot of reasons, and I think they really are a showcase for what a lot of blockbuster filmmaking has lost in the last decade. They really are. The music, the acting, the writing, the visuals, it's just it gets you in the feels, and it's interesting. I know it's crazy how I missed that whole thing, but again, I think my first superhero movie in the theater was The Avengers. So, and at that point, that's me missing a lot of stuff. So, yeah. Again, this ain't new knowledge. It's kind of surprising you guys forgot about that, but hey, there's that.
I remember because he was a little reluctant to go back and see those films because he wanted Tom Holland to be his Spider-Man. And I was like, listen, I've
learned a long time ago, there's no point in fighting.
Okay.
There's no point in fighting Peter with it. Like, I always have to, like, watch whatever version, whatever, like,
because
I don't know,
I'm
prequel.
Right. That's the only reason why.
Like, he made me go back and watch the original West Side Story before watching the new one. Just good. Like I'm watching the Matrix films.
Fair.
I'm not complaining. Okay. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying
I know you're used to coming in the seventh film and being like, oh, I wonder what's going on. Oh, this is interesting.
Yes.
No, fuck that.
And I was fine that way. I do that a lot, and it worked off just fine.
Me start in season 5, episode 6 of this television series. Let me see if I like it. Who fucking does that? Whatever.
I did that quite a bit, and I was just fine.
That's why I didn't want to get into Doctor Who, because there's 50 seasons, and I refuse to come in at season 48.
You can ignore the first 27 seasons.
What kind of show is that? You can ignore the first 27 seasons.
Just watch the last season.
Just watch
the first 27 seasons. The first 27 seasons are from the 60s to the late 80s. None
Listen,
of that
guys,
really comes into context.
Just stick with it for 27 seasons. Once if they start to hit their stride on the 28th, okay? Just stick with it. Ridiculous.
Oh my god.
Can't trust British people.
A lot of British people are comparing this movie to Doctor Who, by the way. An episode of Doctor Who. Which, if you've seen a crossover episode of Doctor Who, because what they do is they have a lot of old doctors come back and have like a special episode. That's what it felt.
Oh, okay.
I can see that.
That's what that's what the Brits were comparing it to. And Kyle, which he fancies himself a Brit, but he's not. No, really, that's true.
Kyle, don't take this the wrong way, but one day I want him to visit England and then like just get berated for being an American and like the shit beat out of by British people. Like, oh, this fucking Yankee, and then just, I just want to see him get rejected.
No,
by the British.
that's so mean. Don't say it.
Hasn't he been rejected
You're not
enough?
one of us. It'll be like James Cameron's Avatar, but instead of Na'vi, it's with British people. And instead of becoming one of them, they fucking kick him out.
Oh my god.
That's so mean.
So Spider-Man.
Yes. At the same time, it was during those same 2 weeks, of course, I also watched The Amazing Spider-Man and The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Which, wow. I haven't bothered to go back and watch them because I remember them being just awful films. Off, not just in terms of execution, but I think as far as characterization and writing in particular, those films were kind of a disaster all around. I think the first film was, I'm not even gonna say it was fine. I think the first film was actually pretty lousy, and the second one was, well, we all know what the second one was. Those movies weren't good. They just weren't.
Did you like them?
I know a lot of people feel, I've been seeing a lot of people that really like those movies. Good for you if you do, but I don't recall those being pleasant experiences.
It's some revisionist history bullshit. Those films are not good. The Amazing Spider-Man is a cheaper version of the first Spider-Man film, and the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is if the disaster known as Suicide Squad was a Spider-Man film. Like that's what that was. You can love Andrew Garfield, okay, but I'm not going to pretend those movies were good. I'm just not. Is Andrew Garfield Mexican?
He's British.
Didn't he play a Mexican in a movie?
He's British, Peter.
In The Social Network, didn't he? So he did brownface then.
Oh.
Wasn't he play a Mexican in The Social Network?
Yeah.
Somebody called David Fincher and
that's a brownface. Get on it and
get the cancel police.
Cancel him right before they greenlight. Do it for everyone. Cancel him before they greenlight The Amazing Spider-Man 3. Save everyone.
Well, it may come up. He's about to get a nomination for Best Actor this year, so that could come up as a hit piece. You never know.
I'll write it. As a fellow Latinx, how do you say it? How do those fuckers say it? Latinx individual.
Latinx.
I am astounded at the blatant brown face and the way no one has called him out for it.
Have you seen West Side Story?
She has not. She hates you.
1961, I know.
Oh, well, yeah. That's 1961.
That's like,
they're all dead.
No.
most of them are dead, I
like
think.
99%, okay?
The main person who did
99%. That is a passing grade. Get away with that nonsense, okay?
Stephen Sondheim barely died like last month. Like he was like in his 90s.
Is it last month? No,
it's
he's
this month.
dead. Okay, then.
Okay, this is interesting. All right, and then we have Homecoming, and then we have Far From Home, and that is in the so.
Wait,
man, 27. What was it?
Alexis, what do you think? Because I feel like we've never asked. What do you think of the Spider-Man films?
Oh yes. Well, I was gonna go to every person.
Yeah, you go ahead and finish.
After.
I'll go after.
Yeah, and and then she can go through all of them in order.
Because I know how you feel. I don't know how she feels.
Are you trying to say you're tired of me?
No, I'm seeing if there's another reason to hate her. Because we have the uptake, we have other things. I don't know. Go ahead.
You two have been seeing eye to eye.
I know.
Enough
we need
lately.
to fix things.
I feel like we might tonight.
Oh no!
You might.
What if we zoom right past each other? We take opposite sides.
2017 was a different me in terms of MCU love. I loved everything MCU. Yeah. I really did. And 2017 was kind of like the peak year. Yeah, 2017 was kind of like the peak year because you had Guardians 2, Homecoming, and Thor Ragnarok, and all of those films were so much fun. That was the best year I think Marvel's had in terms of like consistent quality. Mm-hmm. And so I really loved Homecoming when it came out. I mean, a lot of us really, really liked it and really liked Tom and kind of like the different feel of it, but also, no, we did. We all really liked it. Not necessarily as much as we did initially, but at the time, all of us were kind of like, you know what, this is a win. We all really like this film. And again, there were lowered expectations because of the previous 2 films in Spider-Man lore that came before the fact. So that's where it was. As far as Homecoming is concerned, I just revisited after seeing No Way Home, and I still like the film, but it does come across a bit more really light, more lighter than I even recall myself.
I remember saying that at the time. I was like, it's very light for Spider-Man.
Well, as light as that was, then we also got Far From Home, which that really to me, by the way, I enjoy Far From Home as I like to think of it more as an episode of a Spider-Man TV show more than because that's what it feels like than an actual Spider-Man movie. And the movie is like, it's fine, it's good, it's got a lot of good stuff in it, but it also because it's the middle of a 3 like Spider-Man film trilogy, it does feel a bit disposable. And I think you can tell how little impact that movie made when you see a lot of people's lists lately, and Far From Home is kind of toward the bottom of the barrel in how that film has aged. Again, I wouldn't say it's bad on the level of the Andrew Garfield films were, but it also just feel like, okay, well, I guess this was a movie? Okay. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. And as far as the Home trilogy is concerned, with this film, I have to say, this is probably the most weird trilogy of Spider-Man, or the weird group of Spider-Man films yet, because they really do. There's a lot of shifts, shall we say, from one movie to the next. Especially when you get to the third film, things take a turn that the previous 2 films, we'll get into all of that. So, Alexis, we'll get to you. Tell us your history with the character of Spider-Man and then all your thoughts on all of his movies. We're not counting Venom or Venom Let There Be Carnage. Some people out there want to include Venom as their Spider-Man and their Spider-Man rank list.
You're the one who always decries people for forgetting animation, and you didn't bring up Into the Spider-Verse.
Damn.
Hypocrite, Mark.
Well, if you see behind me.
No.
If you see behind me, I have a $120 poster of Into this. Nope. Oh, okay. This was an authentic piece on eBay. I have the certificate. I don't have the certificate, but it's real. Anyway, Into the Spider-Verse.
It's undocumented? Okay, go ahead.
Oh God, 2018 is kind of a perfect movie. To me, my favorite Spider-Man films, it's neck and neck with Spider-Man 2 #1 and Into the Spider-Verse #2. That's where we're at the moment. I think that kind of speaks for itself. And I'm so excited for Across the Spider-Verse. Like, I have no idea. Like that's my number one anticipated movie of 2022. Like, I'm so ready for that movie.
Yeah.
So, but Venom. No, we're not discussing Venom.
I honestly don't even remember that movie.
I
And
never
didn't watch the
saw it
second
either
one.
because
Oh.
The only Venom I saw. Well, we'll get to that. Spoilers. Anyway, continue.
So the first trilogy, I mean, iconic.
yeah.
I think my first superhero movie and my all-time favorite superhero movie is the first X-Men. And then Spider-Man came like right after. I feel like I have a weird connection to those movies just because they remind me of David. Like, we would watch the first Spider-Man all the time, like literally all the time. I want to say we had it on VHS. I don't think we had the DVD. And we had like a TV room at my house, and that one would always be on. I know David like at some point decorated his room Spider-Man. So like for that reason, I really love those movies, and they just feel really like they feel like home, I guess, in a way.
They feel more home than the actual Spider-Man films that have home in the title.
Mm-hmm.
So obvious, you had to go for it. Okay.
I know.
But I do think that they have. I feel like you guys like the sequels more than I do. I personally love the first one. The second one is really good. The third one for me, which I know you guys really like, is okay for me.
That's fine. That's perfectly
but I
fine.
still like it. Like, I still really, really like those movies. I think the only thing that I don't like about the movies is MJ. She kind of irks me.
You were gonna go.
She kind of irks me. Not like the character, but the actress.
You are not a Kirsten Dunst fan?
I am. Bring It On, the original Bring It On. I could like word for word repeat that whole movie, but I just did not like her. This one. And then with that being said, with the Andrew Garfield movies, they are not good movies, but the only thing that makes them okay for me is the relationship between Gwen and Peter in those movies.
Gwennifer?
Yes. I love them, and that's it. I honestly don't even remember what happens in those movies. I think I saw them in the movie theater, and that's it. I do wish that I would have seen these movies before going to go watch this one. So it seems like half of the world already saw it, or most of the world already saw it, but if you haven't, go watch them. These first, and then go watch that one. And then the Tom Holland ones, it's kind of the same, like, they're fun. I do think Tom Holland is a really good, Spider-Man. I think Andrew Garfield for me is the best one. I think that the what is it, Homecoming one? I think that one's really good. The second one I enjoyed. I like Jake Gyllenhaal in the movie. Like, his
I thought you just meant in general.
No.
I like Jake Gyllenhaal.
No. But that's kind of it. I think that those movies have a lot of issues with them. But that's kind of, yeah, that's where I'm at with those
They got
movies.
A lot of boring issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they kind of bleed into this one still for me.
Ooh.
Interestingly here, though, you just said you feel like Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man. You feel like he's your favorite?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we may all have a different answer to this. We'll see. We'll see. Continue, Peter.
These are fighting words. I don't know. Um, okay, so I'm disappointed yet again. Someone left out Into the Spider-Verse. Animation gets zero fucking respect.
I'm sorry. That one.
Notably,
I
the
think
one
the
with the
first
lead
one-
black Spider-Man. I'm
Oh
just
my
throwing that out there.
god. Into the Spider-Verse is, I think, the top one.
It's like your guys' top ones, but you forget to talk about it.
Well, sorry. It's because
we're so.
It's because
Yeah,
we
we're-
moved to Tom Holland, and after that, like, it's yeah. What's it called? That one's the best one, but it's like, the first Spider-Man is also the top one.
They're very close.
Yeah,
Like
but
that
like, I think that the first Spider-Man wins, but like only for like nostalgic reasons. Like that's it. Whereas Into the Spider-Verse is like number one because it's number one.
So, with all that being said, Peter, your turn.
Okay. Like most normal people, I started at a very young age with the Raimi films. I remember
I didn't think you would be a prejudiced person, Peter.
Okay, you attacked my accent, so let's not go there. I remember seeing the trailers for the first Spider-Man on TV and being like, I'm gonna go see that, right? And I think I've talked about this before, where
I have no memory of any trailer or even the movies coming out, except for the first memory I have of that era of Raimi Spider-Man films was I saw that. No, I remember what it was. I wanted a PlayStation 3 in 2007, and it came with a free copy of Spider-Man 3 on Blu-ray, which I never watched.
saw.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. This dude's too busy
That was a great year,
watching
2007.
Dragon Ball Z.
That's still out of character because that's where you usually start too.
Yeah. And the third one. So yeah, and I think I've said this before. I was all excited. My dad took me to go see it at the movies. There's a line all the way outside. So he decides, yeah, I think you'd rather watch The Scorpion King because there's no line for that. So we
my
watched
God.
The Scorpion King. Which, I mean, I was like so little. I don't think I gave a shit. I was just like, oh, Scorpion, because I did love the Mummy movies at the time. So I don't know. I guess I just went along with it. Eventually, though, I did see that Spider-Man. It was the greatest thing ever made in my eyes. It was everything to me. And then Spider-Man 2 came out, and it was even better. So you can just imagine how that really captured my soul. I still have Spider-Man crap from those Raimi films, like around here.
We had the stupid little with the silly string.
with the silly string. It was fucking great. Yes, I remember. Again, another thing. My dad was trying to like figure out how to use it, and then I don't know what I just like popped it off and then broke it. And he's like, "What are you doing? It doesn't work." I was like, "Oh, I thought that's how it works." I don't know. So we lost to Take a Silly String. But yeah, no, I love those. I went to the midnight premiere back when it was actually midnight. None of this 7 o'clock on a Thursday bullshit. Midnight premiere
or 3 o'clock on a Thursday.
Yeah, for Spider-Man 3. And that one was at the mall. It was probably like a few years into when the mall was open.
No, it was. Oh,
yeah, 2 years,
if that. Yeah.
And
I remember watching. I remember seeing that too.
It was a line.
Well, I saw all of them.
Yeah, in the theaters, right? Yeah, ditto. It was a line all the way to, you know where the bathrooms are at as you like enter the.
God damn.
Yes. That's how long the line was. I sat very close to the screen and I did not care. And I mean, I loved it, right? Like I really loved the film, and I still maintain that Spider-Man 3 is better than the majority of superhero films that have come out since it was released.
I just saw that last week, and I can't agree with you more.
Like that. That's the way.
I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna have a list ready. Do you have your list ready at the end by the time this podcast is over?
Oh, the official
when we
list?
talk about No Way Home? Yeah. Of your Spider-Man ranked.
Oh, I'll get it ready. Whenever you talk, I'll work on it.
Great, thank you.
The Andrew Garfield films. Oh, they canceled Spider-Man 4 and then immediately announced a reboot.
I remember that.
And I have never been more put off. Like, I had a vendetta against those fucking films because of that. And it didn't help that when they came out, they were writing the first Amazing Spider-Man. They were writing that whole like Dark Knight, everything's darker and more realistic and more grit. Everything was all about a dark and gritty reboot. You remember that? Dark and gritty.
It was 2011, right?
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Yes. 10 years ago, I was angry. I don't think I don't even think I saw it in the theater. But I
really?
Yeah, no.
Wow.
I did
saw
not.
both of them.
You were basically boycotting the movie.
Boycotted. I don't think I did it intentionally, but I was like, fuck this movie. But I did eventually see it, and what bothered me was that it was the Spider-Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
But worse. And I remember at the time people are like, now this is Spider-Man. None of that goofy shit anymore. And I remember, I fucking remember this. I remember John Campea reviewing it and saying that it did every single thing the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man film did, but better. I remember him saying that. And I'm just...
He said that, did he?
Yes, he did.
Wow.
'Cause I remember just being like, the fuck? But I saw it. I wasn't a fan of it. And you know what? I'm dropping this right here because I constantly hear about it. Everyone always talks about how the romance in the Tobey Maguire movies doesn't work, but that, oh my god, it's so good in the Amazing Spider-Man films. I don't agree. I don't think the romance is that great in the Amazing Spider-Man films. I know everyone swears like it's the greatest love story of all time. I think they obviously have chemistry because they're both like fucking Academy Award tier actors, and they were also dating at the time. But like as far as
Toby and Kristen Dunst.
Yeah, and they were fucking great in the films. I believed that. Oh yes, yeah, no. I think the romance worked so well in the Toby films. I think it worked so well. Guess what? Okay, I didn't come prepared to argue.
Let me just say real quick.
That's how I feel.
I could say one quick thing is, and this is, I think, to me, the moment where I really began to fall in love with the Raimi movies, and to that scene, particularly about the romance. One of the best scenes I think I've seen in any movie, period, as far as like, and someone like without really saying it, but saying it, an expression of love, is when Peter and MJ are in the hospital with Aunt May. Mm-hmm. And MJ is like, oh, Spider-Man or whatever. Like, well, what does he say about me? And then like he basically just like professes his love without like actually like saying, oh, I love you. But all like the things that he says to her are like, I mean, come on, you can't get better than that. Like that must honestly was kind of like akin to a serenade, if anything.
Yes.
But you feel that there was a heart palpitable, I don't know, that felt real, that felt authentic. And I don't think anything really has touched that in a long time.
I think they work great. I think there are so many scenes between them.
By the way,
romantic
Maguire and
scenes.
Dunst were also dating, weren't
Yeah.
they,
Yeah,
at the
I said
time?
that.
Yeah. She's
okay.
it's for whatever.
History repeats itself.
I guess Spider-Man sets are hot and heavy. So yeah, I was very whatever on the I guess it's not the worst film in the world, but it's just boring. It's just a lesser version of the Raimi film in my eyes.
Yeah.
The first Amazing Spider-Man film. And then the Amazing Spider-Man 2. I actually did see this one in theaters because I really liked the suit.
You and costumes, man, they sway you sometimes.
Half of the reason superheroes are so cool is because of the fucking suits, and you rarely get to see them in full glory in live action. So fuck it, yeah. I was like, this is a cool suit. So and I hated the suit they had in the first Amazing Spider-Man. Because the whole thing is like, it's got to be realistic. It's fucking Spider-Man. I don't give a shit about that kind of realistic shit. Okay, just the next day he's got a suit and he's flying around and it looks cool. That's all I need. And guess what? That's what they did in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. He starts the movie and he just has the suit and no one fucking comments on it. And I saw that one and it was terrible, but the suit looked good.
But the movie was terrible.
And I guess that's all I have to say about that. I think it's still the worst one in my eyes. Amazing.
Easily, I feel.
And then they did the whole MCU thing, and at that point I'm pretty much for it because I don't care about these Amazing Spider-Man films. In fact, they appear to be a massive train wreck. And then, I mean, yeah, Spider-Man in the MCU. How fun is that, right? So it's like, cool, awesome, done. I thought he was really cool in Civil War. I thought that was a great introduction. Yeah. And then Homecoming. I like Homecoming. I think what I like most about it is that they made a Spider-Man movie that was very different. They were clearly going for something really different than what had traditionally been done. But I guess it was just a double-edged sword, right? So it's like, even though you're doing all these new things that have never been done with Spider-Man before and, the big screen, you also lose a shit ton as well, right?
Yeah.
You don't have that just like poor kid trying to make it. You don't really have him being a loser at all. Like,
no.
You don't have the with great power comes great responsibility, Uncle Ben.
There's no Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben doesn't exist in this version as far as I'm concerned.
And also, he's literally being helped out by a tech billionaire. He has a tech suit that does a million different things. Like, again, that provides a lot of interesting, new, cool things that we've never seen with Spider-Man before. But it also takes away, for me, like some of the most vital aspects of what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man. And then Far From Home was it was fine. Both Homecoming and Far From Home just felt like MCU films. And they didn't really feel like Spider-Man films to me. Spider-Man was in them, and I enjoyed them while I was watching them. I definitely enjoyed Homecoming more now with time than Far From Home. Far From Home had one cool sequence, and then after that, I feel like I forget everything else in the film. And then also there was a lot of things promised to me in Homecoming where it feels like they just didn't do it. The whole reveal with Aunt May, we're gonna skip that, and Aunt May's no longer a character.
Basically, it felt like that character was just dropped in the second movie.
I thought MJ was gonna they were really gonna take their time and slowly build the romance.
That was my biggest issue with that movie. Is like I just watched them back to back, Homecoming and Far From Home. It feels like we skipped a whole chapter in between because we start the movie.
You did.
we end the last movie with like Peter's whole crush was on some other girl, Liz.
That,
and like
I think, was where they fucked up.
I agree with you. It should have probably been MJ. Just start there, because then we get to Far From Home, and like all out of nowhere, this girl that he barely paid attention to.
Yeah. If anything,
the first line he says, "Oh, I'm in love with MJ." Maybe you could have just shown us that he had any interest instead of just saying it.
He literally goes like, "Yeah, there's this weird bitchy girl in my class."
I like that they showed MJ liking him first.
Yes.
That's cool. But that went nowhere.
I thought in the second film you were gonna slowly see them like form a bond, and then the third film they finally get together. But in between, he just goes from feeling completely ambivalent about her to being like, "Oh my god, I'm so in love with her. I need her so much." It's like, where the fuck did this come from? And
Yeah.
then like Ned is just a comic relief, and it's just like so much is just
The film ends with Peter and MJ basically together.
yeah.
And it just feels so unearned.
Mhm. So suffice to say, coming into, and yeah, I am one of those Iron Man Jr. fucking haters about like I said before, like it sure, it's a new and interesting direction. It's not that interesting to me though. You lose too much of what made Spider-Man so interesting in doing that. And guess what? I think Kevin Feige agreed with me. Or someone did.
Yeah. I was one of those people at first that just didn't necessarily have too much of an issue. Homecoming, I mean, in particular with Tony Stark and him being a presence. But the more, and again, having recently rewatched both Homecoming and Far From Home, the more I think about it, the more I think the argument really, prevailed that the Stark universe just, it took over so much of Spider-Man's story that Homecoming and Far From Home kind of feel like backdoor Iron Man 4 and 5s.
Yeah.
Because you have so many of the characters just involved in all the Stark tech and the influence,
All
so
the
many mentions to
villains
Iron
are
Man.
just- all the villains are literally just Iron Man pissed us off, and you're kind of his in between
Punch bag.
Yeah, you're like his bouncer, so we're gonna take on you, I guess. Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then especially if you watch it like the television show that it is, much of the crux of Iron Man's emotional weight through Infinity War and Endgame is Spider-Man, Peter Parker, like that relationship between them. It honestly feels like, not to get into No Way Home already, it feels like after Tony died, they're like,
What do we do now?
what do we do with this? We lost the sort of
The main character.
we lost the main character of our Spider-Man films. How do we?
But you lost one half of this dynamic as well.
you-
And so, like, where do you go forward with that? And they didn't seem to understand where to go with next. One other aspect of this, and I think Peter and I discussed this a few weeks ago. Somebody else pointed this out on Twitter. I don't remember who it was. But all of the best moments of MCU Spider-Man happen outside his solo films.
For sure.
His introduction in Civil War, which is one of the best scenes, one of my favorite Spider-Man scenes, really, to this day. Him in the Spidey sense, or the battle in Avengers Infinity War. I mean,
At
the beginning.
Oh
whole
yeah,
action
when
sequence.
he gets out of the school bus and he swings over. Yeah, that's great.
Him dying, basically, all those moments, are the best part of his entire moment in the MCU up until No Way Home. That's kind of an issue with the best moments are not in the solo films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, to sort of segue into the film, leading into this film, I knew what they were doing, and I was pissed off, and I hated it. And I voiced that opinion very loudly here to you many, many times. And I was at Rise of Skywalker levels of hate, as I'm gonna see this movie, but fuck, do I just disagree fundamentally with every choice they're doing here. More than anything, I just wanted them to make a film about Peter Parker and not other things, just focusing on him and his life and his story and da-da-da-da-da. So yeah, I came in rather cynical to the film.
I feel we were all there, quite
And
frankly.
Spider-Verse was amazing.
Do you forget it too?
No, I did it. I did it. I didn't forget. I said it right there.
At the very end of it. Yeah, you said at the very
I still
end.
said it. It was amazing. I love Spider-Verse.
Look, I agree with you, but all of us arrived on some level of pessimism, so much so that we were just trying to talk ourselves into, okay, there'll be something in here for us to enjoy. It'll be okay. It won't be Rise of Skywalker.
It can't
We
be.
all have.
It can't be.
Nothing can be that.
We all had collective trauma from that experience. I feel we really did.
It can't happen twice, can it?
I don't think I ever heard Alexis sound more disappointed walking out of a movie than Rise of Skywalker.
What'd I say? I don't remember.
No, I mean the sound in your voice was
it out.
just. I mean, I think your first words were like, "I don't understand why that was the way it was."
But that's the
in
only
the most
thing you can
defeatist.
say. Like, it's like going to see a movie and it's like 4 hours of a butt farting. Like, It's almost confusion. Like, why? Why did this happen?
So yeah, we had pessimism and we had concerns that this would be kind of a disaster. So let's go ahead and start off with Letterboxd, of course. Peter, if you have the description out, to have the synopsis for Spider-Man No Way Home. I understand, of course, I don't know what there is left to even say or give away with this, but that's what we're going to try here.
All right.
And initially, I know it's... some of you have a difficult time talking about the movie without getting into spoilers, but first, our initial impressions, and then we can do all the spoiler talk, because I feel like we want to get our feelings straight across about this movie before we get into all of the moments and spoilers.
I think we know how
go
a
ahead.
review works, but okay. Spider-Man No Way Home. Directed by Kevin Feige. Peter Parker is unmasked and
and Amy Pascal.
and Amy Pascal and Avi Arad. Peter Parker is unmasked and no longer able to separate his normal life from the high stakes of being a superhero. When he asks for help from Doctor Strange, the stakes become even more dangerous, forcing him to discover what it truly means to be Spider-Man. Starring Tom Holland, Zendaya, Benedict Cumberbatch,
Spoilers.
Jacob Batalon, John Favreau, Jamie Foxx, Willem Dafoe, Alfred Molina, Benedict Wong, Tony Revolori, Marissa Tomei. I just hit some names I won't say. So continue.
Robert Downey Jr.?
He's back.
No. Okay, so who wants to start?
We'll go around again, so you start.
Yeah.
Okay, it always comes back to me. First of all, I want to say this was one of the most, if not the single most, rambunctious experience I had at a theatrical experience. It honestly felt like for a lot of moments, a lot of reveals, when those went down, people got up on their feet and like were cheering. Like it was beyond a circus in there. I was kind of scared sometimes with how loud things got. I was like, what's going on? And it was hilarious too. You know, Kyle was laughing every single time that people would like freak out at certain like moments. And I'm not gonna lie. I mean, that kind of exuberance has an impact on, you know, your overall take on a movie. And so I'm glad that the second time I went to go see it, that was mostly absent. There were still surprises. There were gasps, you know, mostly, but there wasn't the high stakes energy that you get when you see it with the nerds and the fans that opening night. So I'm thankful that I have the two different screenings of it. I thought this movie was going to be downright infuriating and enraging for large moments of it. And my surprise is that it mostly is not. That's my takeaway at the moment. I have to say that as just start off with, I like the movie. And that is kind of shocking to me because that's not what I was expecting. I was expecting to very much be angry at it for several reasons. And I think this is an interesting film to talk about because there is as much to say good as there is bad. And a lot of, I would say, great moments and inspired creative choices with the film also have significant drawbacks because of a lot of the things that we've already touched on the Home trilogy and a lot of our issues with it. There was a couple of scenes in there which were, I mean, there was one moment where I will say it was downright cringe, but it worked for people, and I guess that's all that matters. But the second time I watched it, it was like, it's good to see you guys interact, and this is interesting, but it was downright cringe. There is an aspect of this film that feels surreal because you see things that you just never thought you would see. And in many moments, that kind of emotion is sweeping, especially when you see certain actors interact. it's just like, wow, I can't believe I'm actually watching this. So it has that kind of, allure to it. But I think, the bare bones of this film, in spite of the fact that I feel that overall this should have been 2 different movies, because it really, I think my biggest concern at the moment is that it, like, for the first 40 minutes, it feels like we're in one movie, and then that movie just stops, and then we go into a different movie. Even though they still have, they try to tie it in thematically with, like, grounding it as, like, a Peter Parker story. And I do think that's a great success that this film had over the other 2, which this does feel, ironically enough, like a singular, unique Spider-Man Peter Parker story. And they finally give him a lot to work with in terms of him having to experience devastation and loss. And he grows. And by the end of the film, you're like, wow, that's kind of the Spider-Man I've been looking for 3 movies now. And Peter is going to use this term a lot, but it definitely does feel like behind the scenes, a lot of the criticism, for a change, Kevin Feige may have listened to it, that actually impacted the preceding film. I mean, the subsequent film in a major way as far as, a creative direction is concerned. The middle portion of this movie comes across, and I think a lot of the movie overall does, but especially the middle portion of this film oftentimes comes across like a fan film, like a really high budget fan film. Like if you read the script and it's like just reading this movie on paper and you're like, this has to be a joke, right? This can't be the actual movie. That being said, it is mostly saved by the actors being so good at delivering it, but at the same time, it still is what it is. And for as fun and for as just purely exciting as it is to see it transpire, you also can't help but feel like, well, on principle, I shouldn't like this, and this shouldn't be working, but why is it working on me? And you kind of hate yourself a little bit for the fact that it works on you sometimes, in particular the middle portion of it. I love Tom Holland, and I love him in these movies, and I think this is his best performance easily, as far as Peter Parker is concerned. I think this really did feel like his movie, and I'm thankful for that in spite of all of the million distractions going on. Alfred Molina is great. I will say, even though, again, the romance with Zendaya and Tom Holland really isn't there because the previous films didn't establish anything, it did feel better here, but again, not much of an improvement there. Willem Dafoe stole this film from me. And that's where I'm at. I really like this film. There's issues I have with it, but even still, I'm surprised that I quite enjoyed this the way that I did. And this is where Peter says, well, it sounds like you really hated it, but you don't want to say that you hated it. Because apparently even if I don't like something or I don't love it overwhelmingly, that means that I hate it. Which is a fallacy, of course.
I said none of that, you did.
Anyway, who's next?
Me.
See.
It was a fun movie. I think that the issues that we had before the movie are still very much there for me. But it was fun. Everything that we saw, or characters that we saw, it was exciting to see them there. And it did very much feel like this shouldn't be happening. Like, how is this even possible? But I think that, like, my biggest issue is that all of these things are happening and it takes away from Tom Holland. And I think that Tom Holland is really good. And even in this movie, I just think that he didn't get the chance to fully explore what it is to be Spider-Man. And yes, I know that there's more movies to come, but like it shouldn't be taking this long.
I'm so tired of that. Like, well, the next movie, that show it to me now or shut the
yeah.
fuck up.
Right.
I think that a lot of the relationships that Tom Holland has with his main cast are not there. And that is very evident with one specific scene.
Yes.
That
I think it's evident in several scenes.
Well, but this is like the scene.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And I should not have not cried. And I did not.
I put the blame more on Homecoming and Far From Home because of that.
Yes.
I will say that.
A couple of I agree entirely.
But
I think
also,
we're all on there.
I mean, I can't really say much more about that, but like I have other issues with that scene.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
Which I'll get into later.
But a couple of distinctions I want to say here, and I noticed right away. You still feel like Tom Holland was sidelined in this movie. Oh yeah,
100%.
Okay, I can see that. I don't think I can. I still feel like this is still his story. At least to me, it felt like this was the most of his story. Where even though there are other people that show up,
I just think he got outstaged by everybody around him.
He got upstaged. Do you feel?
Yeah,
he did.
Which is really sad to say because he did a really good job with what he had. But he got outstaged, like 100%. And it wasn't even somebody from his main cast.
Well, I mean, that's of course it wouldn't be because there isn't much there to register. Let's be real about that. That's interesting. I don't think I was.
Who did you just say was your favorite? Who did you just say stole the show?
Okay. Now, the other thing. Yes, the other thing.
And you're not wrong. He was amazing. Oh my God.
I guess I have other people in mind, but we're not going to get there yet. But I know what you're talking about. The other thing is, I have to say, I see what you're saying about a lot of the issues still being there, but I think this movie did a lot of good in rectifying problems I had with this version of Peter Parker by the end of the film.
There's a lot of course correction.
And that's another issue that I had that I think is, I don't know. I personally
the fact that there was a course correction, or what issue?
I personally think that all of those rewrites was all of those corrections that you're talking about. We read a lot about the movie being rewritten over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And you can totally tell, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is an issue because, I don't know. I like the movie, I do, but I don't know. Those just big issues are still very much present for me. Yep. Yeah, I think that's all I can say because the rest I have to talk about people and stuff that happens.
Peter Parker.
Okay.
No.
This film, I think, is, at least to me, easily the best Spider-Man film in the MCU. I think I enjoy it. I enjoyed it. There's the T, as the youngins say. For as much as I hated every concept about the film, I ended up rather enjoying it, and I think I enjoyed it better than Homecoming, and definitely Far From Home. There are issues with, for sure, and I think a lot of people are just glossing over it.
Yeah,
there are definitely
my
issues with
biggest why are people saying this? that Tom Holland deserves an Oscar for this movie.
Don't listen to those people. Don't. They're crazy people. They're insane people. I know. The first half of this, not even half, like the first act of this movie,
40 minutes maybe,
clearly should have been its own film.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked about this, I think, to you, Mr. Soto.
Extensively. We discussed this. Yeah.
And my pitch was always courtroom drama / dealing with everyone knowing he's Spider-Man. You can throw in some Daredevil. Instead of having Doctor Strange, have Daredevil in there helping him out, also being his lawyer, and maybe he doesn't know that they're one and the same. And then you have Kraven the Hunter hunting him down because he knows his identity, and that's sort of the main villain of the whole thing. And you have this really deep, intimate film dealing with just all the blowback and all the nonsense that happened at the end of the last film. I think that would have been an amazing third Spider-Man film. And then the fourth one, you pick up with him going to Doctor Strange, and like boom, right away. You start with the whole Spider-Verse stuff, multiverse. And then again, you have more time to flesh out things instead of try to quickly end the film that you actually set up to do this other film that you now want to do. Yeah, so there's clearly issues with that. So many, and that's why I almost okay. We'll get more into spoilers, but like again, first Homecoming ended with a huge bomb that they dropped, and it's like, ooh, I can't wait to see how they explore this, and then they don't.
Which was Aunt May finding out that Spider-Man was Peter Parker.
And then Far From Home ended with everyone finding out that Spider-Man was Peter Parker. And I went, ooh, I can't wait to see a whole film exploring this. And then they don't. And then this No Way Home ends with another big bomb. And I'm really worried.
I know.
That they just go, yep, never mind, and we're just kind of scooching, backtracking over, and we don't address any of it. And we don't have it, because again, the way this film ends, it's like, ooh, I can't wait to see another film that just dives into everything that's gone on here. And if we get a film that just sort of backtracks on a lot of it, I'm gonna be pissed. But
I would be inclined to agree with that train of thought, and not to say that maybe you think this way as well, but like considering how much of this movie felt like a course correction, you would think that would suggest that the ending is going to stick.
I agree, but that's also another thing. This is clearly a course correction. People were acting like this was the plan from the beginning.
Yeah.
Who's acting like that?
Everybody.
Everyone is saying like, oh my God, this was perfect. It was perfectly planned out. This is clearly what they were trying to do with Spider-Man from the beginning. They were not. They were clearly going in a very specific new direction with Spider-Man. And then they just decided to go back to the more classic place with him. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of issues with the film. That being said, this was the first Spider-Man film in the MCU, and really in a long time. Well, if you don't count Spider-Verse, the first live action, where I felt like I was actually watching a Spider-Man film. While I enjoyed Homecoming, while I had a good time watching Far From Home, they never really felt like Spider-Man films to me.
They felt more like MCU
They felt like
movies.
an MCU movie that happened to have the character Spider-Man in them. Like, same as Infinity War or Endgame or Civil War. This was the first movie where I'm like, this feels like a Spider-Man. I feel like I'm actually in the movie theaters watching a Spider-Man film. And it's so weird to me that they picked their Spider-Man Endgame film to try and be the most intimate story they've done so far with Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's so
And then
weird.
also a reboot.
And then also, yes, there's a lot of different, it goes in a lot of different directions. That being said, so much of the film did work for me. There's a lot of genuinely great moments. And a lot of stuff where I can't even believe I'm saying this. It almost felt like I was watching a film. And that's I don't know if Loretto knows the way I say this, but like there's a lot of these MCU films just feel like they don't feel like films. They feel like products, like the next McDonald's made episode of the MCU. But there are other films, blockbuster films, are like, wow, this feels like a director made it, like an artist. Like they actually made a film and they weren't just making a 2-hour-long commercial like the Suicide Squad. I was like, oh, that feels like a film. And there are scenes here, there are moments where it's like, it kind of feels like a film to me. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm surprised by how much I ended up enjoying it. The movie, and it's so funny. The people that never always bitch constantly about like plot holes and shit like that. If they actually cared about that stuff, they would have a field day with this movie. But they don't actually care about that stuff, so they're not talking about it. Again, if they didn't like it, that's all they would be talking about. What I'm saying is they're stupid and they don't understand when they don't like a film. So they just point at plot holes and pretend as if that's the reason they don't like a movie. Because that would cause introspection to try and understand something, and they're not. I don't think they're capable of that.
Yeah,
because there are a million plot holes in this movie.
Yeah,
and my answer is the same to a lot of films, which is shut up and watch the damn movie. For a lot of them, some of them maybe, I don't know. My issue isn't the plot hole-ness of it, but the way the story is rushed and convenienced in a way just so they can brush by stuff that really shouldn't be brushed by. But on the whole, I ended up enjoying it a lot more than I thought, and it was better than I think it should have been.
It was kind of better than it had any right to be.
Yes.
Considering what we knew was going to happen.
Yes. And again, all the people that shit on those Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, and then that shit ended up being the best parts of this film, and they're all loving it. It's vindication, okay? Vindication. So yeah, that's basically how I feel. Everything else is spoilers.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, and I wonder, like, because I couldn't help but think of all the plot holes. I don't know if that's something that's really irrelevant for the most part, like,
they are
in our
funny
conversations. But they are funny though. So if we're gonna go ahead and start, we all know what our feelings were.
Spoilers, 1, 2, 3.
Go ahead and we're gonna lift the spoilers, but I'm gonna start off with those plot holes, and just when my mind goes to me, it's like, it's hilarious to me how I was just watching Homecoming, like I mentioned, and there's literally a line where Tony says to Peter, it's never too early to start thinking about college. If you ever, I got some pull at MIT. Just give me a call and I'll take care of it for you. Hey, which also brings the other thing is not just with the whole MIT issue aspect with Peter and MJ and Ned. Where was Pepper Potts? Does she just not care? Like
she's raising her daughter.
At all?
She's like, I'm done with all this shit.
Like, it's to me, it's like, and this is part of the issue I have with the Sokovia Accords still being a thing in this universe. But like, the idea that, okay, I don't know, it just like it's always been used as plot armor. The Stark Industries army of lawyers. Oh, that this instance they really couldn't help Peter Parker at all in this situation, and then also him being a hero that saved the world several times is now the grounds of which we're going to prosecute him. I know the whole Mysterio allegations in the in-universe is what was being investigated, but the whole thing really is kind of hard to buy considering all that we know of this MCU. So I don't know if that's the circumstance of this MCU just being so big at this point that it's some aspects of the plot are hard to buy into. But of course, the movie literally like zips past all of that, so they can't really think about it too much.
It's literally just one scene where Daredevil comes in and says, "Your legal troubles have disappeared."
I was. I know people were like clapping, but I was like, wait a minute, did he just say what this is over already? Didn't we just get here to this part of the movie? Now we're just dropping that with a cameo? Like, it honestly felt like, okay, you know what? We need to get past this movie, the movie that we originally promised was going to be Spider-Man 3 as quickly as possible to set up the multiverse stuff. So what we're going to do is
we're going to drop a bomb and then so they'll forget about it. We're going to smooth that over. Yep.
We're going to smooth it over through Matt Murdock. And like, that'll distract you. And now we're going to... Hey, look over there.
Like it's like you know, babies when you feed them baby food. It's like, look over here, open your mouth.
There's an airplane going in.
They have 2 spoons. Or like, oh, you want the chocolate? Psych! It's the peas, and then get to be. That's literally what it was.
Yeah.
But Daredevil looks great, and
it was fun.
Yeah, to me, he seems like he's acting exactly the same as from the show.
Yeah, It felt exactly like that character, which I will say there are a lot of characters in this movie, minus one, that felt exactly, well, minus a couple of them, but a lot of key characters felt exactly like they did in other previous versions. With Daredevil in particular, I was surprised how quickly that scene was, and then that was it.
Yeah.
So... I'm wondering if maybe there's a deleted sequence in there somewhere where they had a trial or something. But
I think that was the original. The original script was he was his lawyer, and I think he would have had multiple scenes within the trial. I think you could have. The big climactic end would have been fucking Kraven the Hunter attacking him at the culmination of the trial. Like, I think that's what a lot of it would have been. But yeah, no, now it's just like, all right, it's over. Continue now to Doctor Strange.
Other aspects to this. MIT. I mentioned it before. Really? MIT would pass up the chance of having Spider-Man go to their school? I don't believe.
Especially when he was acquitted of all charges.
Right?
When that quickly his image was cleared. No, I don't believe it.
That's just not the real world. And I know, again, these are nitpicks, these are plot holes. We don't care ultimately, but just the things that should be pointed out.
That one's like a big one, though, because that kind of is the beginning of everything.
Right.
Of the whole second movie.
Right.
So...
It's just hard to buy. MIT rejecting Spider-Man going to their school. At, like, you know, these elite schools like to brag about who goes there and everything. Like, that seems like, yeah. Also, so while all of this is, I guess, again, the charges were cleared, and I know he has to finish high school, but I don't know, if you were in Peter's situation, would you go back to that school and look at what he went back to, all the media circus? It just feels like, man, and again, that's also an aspect I would have wanted to spend more time on, but it's just like a scene, and then high school is over, and then we're moving on to this over there.
He didn't go back.
He did
go back to school.
Okay. I thought you meant in the end. Sorry.
No, because like he begins his senior year of high school, which we see for like a scene.
Yeah.
Which is so weird because Homecoming is all about the high school.
Yeah.
And in Far From Home, we see a lot of his fellow students there.
Yeah, it's all about establishing all the students and sort of the school life. And I thought like the whole point of setting all that up is to watch it break and fall apart, right? Like the way they set up how what's his name? The bully.
Flash
Thompson. Yeah.
No, Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon.
Not bad.
Yeah, and again, that's another thing where they just it feels like whenever they just want to not retcon but go like psych, we're not actually doing that. They cover it up with a joke.
They do.
Every time.
I was disappointed. I think that's a disappointing aspect of it because it felt like they were setting up something with Flash Thompson in particular. In that last movie, he was a big fan of Spider-Man. And in this movie, there's like, they don't even have a scene together. Like, there's nothing to that relationship. It goes nowhere. And then Flash is like, oh, Peter, you'd think he would be affected somewhat that this kid he would bully his entire life is now his hero.
Yeah.
Like, you think there would be something instead of just like, oh, I mean, it was a funny joke that he was leeching off of it, like, oh yeah, here's my book and how we're all best friends and everything. But that's just a joke, and there's nothing else to it. And like, I feel like that character in particular is one of the consequences of this film ultimately being dropped and, you know, moved on to the multiverse stuff.
And I want to throw this out right now. This is a larger change in course of where a franchise was going than anything like Force Awakens to Last Jedi.
Dude, was there any course correction? I don't think there was course correction, really.
Okay,
I know.
Shut the fuck up.
I know.
You know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying is what a lot of people believe,
Yes.
but in actuality is false.
I agree. That's my point, though. Like, I see everyone saying, like, oh my god, this trilogy is perfect. Each film builds on, and then now this. And it's like, no. Like
No.
this film... No. This last film, No Way Home, is so different, and it works really hard to detach itself from the last two films and just like does a complete U-turn to a different status quo and type of film that it was setting up. So much of that first half is, again, first third is so messy. And yes, it's funny, and there is good stuff in there that I enjoyed, but it's just
it's messy because it's trying to get it over with as quickly as possible, which is zooming past everything.
Because the reality is this isn't important. It's just the catalyst for what the film will really be about.
Right.
It's almost like a Simpsons episode where it starts off like where you think that the show's going one way, and then actually it's about this other thing. So yeah, you guys can continue.
So I guess that's where a lot of the plot hole, you know, silliness stuff I think happens there. Yeah, so Doctor Strange is in this movie, and I have a feeling we're not really going to be discussing much about him because he's really, for the most part, not in the movie. I mean, he is, but he also isn't. Like, he's there to really introduce the whole multiverse aspect of it. What did we feel about his presence? For me, it's like, I know he kind of was, to me, by the time we get to the third act, he kind of becomes an afterthought. Benedict Cumberbatch, I like that character. I like him as that character. Again, that's also another one of those that Marvel hasn't done much with. That's also another character that has great moments outside of his own movie, elsewhere in the MCU. That sequence, though, with him and Spider-Man in the mirror dimension was pretty fun. Like, actually, it was pretty cool to look at. And one of my favorite aspects of it was the fact that Peter actually won using math. Hey, that was pretty cool all around. And so, yeah, that's as much as I can say about that. And then the whole multiversal consequences, we can get to it in a bit. But I'm not sure how much more there is to say about Doctor Strange in this movie besides that.
Yeah, I agree. I think my favorite moment, which didn't even include him, was when they found the hair dye in the basement.
That's pretty funny.
Oh, that Scooby-Doo joke?
Oh my God,
it was still bad. It was still bad.
No.
It is funny that they included the two worst jokes in the film in the trailer.
Right.
Which bold move, I guess. But yeah, those were definitely the two worst jokes in the movie.
That being said, thankfully they were the worst, and the rest of the humor didn't get.
It never reached that level.
It didn't reach the level. I would say the humor didn't stink. I think it was pretty okay and fun in moments. So thankfully, it didn't get that bad all the way throughout.
Yeah. That's one of the upsides to me. I'm glad Doctor Strange is just kind of there. He's yeah. One of the things I was so afraid of is like, okay, we're gonna replace the Tony Spider-Man dynamic with the Doctor Strange Spider-Man dynamic and do something with that. They didn't do that, which is a win.
The whole joke in Infinity War was that Doctor Strange and Tony were the same character.
Yeah, and I'm like, they're gonna do it. They're gonna fucking do it. That would have annoyed the shit out of me.
And he was in a lot of the posters.
Mm-hmm.
They really sold
He wasn't. Yeah, they
Doctor
did.
Strange. Which is, I guess, people don't go to a Spider-Man film to see Doctor. You don't need to sell the MCU-ness of it. I guess. People love Spider-Man. They just do. Yeah. I was gonna save this up for the end, but I think it fits better right now. The way I view this film, and the way I think it works, is, to me, it comes off like a one-off graphic novel story. Something like The Dark Knight Returns, where it's just this one weird variant story about Batman, right? Like, if you guys know The Dark Knight
Killing
Returns.
Joke typical.
Yeah, like the Killing Joke. Like, it's this one-off story with these characters that do weird stuff, and then that's it. Like, it's its own thing.
But like, it kind of can't be.
Well, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why it makes more sense to me. Because there's like this one Batman graphic novel that I've read. It's called Batman the White Knight. And it does a lot of different things than what is in the original canon. And it'll include things like all the Batmobiles from all the movies. So like the Tumbler and the 1989 Batmobile, and there'll be like references to the movies and stuff like that. And it works because it's its own thing, and you're supposed to come in with that knowledge. Like it's sort of like a special, you know? You guys know what a special is? Not necessarily a movie, but like a special, like the Star Wars special. It's a celebration. And this is what this feels like, a Spider-Man special, where it's a celebration of all these other Spider-Man things.
Like I mentioned before, Doctor Who fans know the
Day
of the Doctor.
They're called Doctor.
Yeah.
They're specials, right? Yeah, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's this. This is what it feels like to me. It feels like if someone said, "I want to do a Spider-Man special that's all about celebrating the history of Spider-Man," and then they do this, especially because this film only works if you have an understanding of every other film that has nothing to do with the MCU. If you like, I love Green Goblin in this. I love Doc Ock in this. I like all the other villains in this. They don't build them up, right?
No.
The assumption is the assumption is just right?
You know what's interesting? I'm not seeing a lot of people really say that as much. I remember that kind of thinking, and to be fair, that was noted, especially with Infinity War and Endgame. Like, if you hadn't seen any of the MCU movies, why are you watching them? You're not going to get a lot of stuff that happens in those. That's a fair argument. But also, No Way Home really relies on you. Like Alexa said, maybe she should have rewatched all these movies before watching No Way Home again, because it really relies on you having done that. My brother doesn't really know a lot of the stuff that happened in those old movies. He knows the Tom Holland movies. And so he was just like, this is cool.
Who are these people?
I also don't know what they're referencing.
Yeah.
So like that. So if you don't know what they're, because a lot of the conversations that happen in this film, particularly in the middle of the movie, are really about like, hey, I was here when this happened in that movie, and when this happened to me when that happened in that movie, and like I thought you were dead, but let me recap what happened in case like you. It does a lot to where like it tries on some level to catch up people who didn't see them, but then you still feel lost if you haven't seen those other movies.
Yeah. No, 100%. But that's why, to me, it doesn't feel like the 3000th MCU movie. It doesn't feel like the third Tom Holland MCU Spider-Man film. It feels like a Spider-Man special, right? And it's sort of celebration of Spider-Man, where that to me, that's the only where I can view it where it makes sense. And I'm okay with that because I don't care about any of the Spider-Man stuff before this in the MCU, not really. Especially, and the reason why it also works is because so much of this film, I think, is trying to be about what does it mean to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So on a certain level, that's what it feels like it is. Like, this is just a celebration of Spider-Man. There's going to be weird off-the-wall stuff. you should only be here if you know it, if you're down with it. In the same way, you probably shouldn't start your Doctor Who viewing experience with the one where all the past doctors come in. Like, this is...
You can start watching Doctor Who in the rebooted season 1 that starts off in 2005 going forward, and you will
season
you
27.
Miss a thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, that's the way I view this film. And I think that's why I like it a lot more. Because I don't think about the baggage tied to the MCU. I don't care. I don't think about, like, any of that other stuff. It just feels like, hey, let's do a Spider-Man special about what does it mean to be Spider-Man. And really, because Tom Holland's Spider-Man really hasn't gone through anything.
Yeah.
Not really.
Until
now. To me, I feel fine just watching this and being like, okay, like, because all the important shit happens to him in this fucking film. So to me, I almost view it as like a one-off, like, boom, Spider-Man special. And I think it's more fun that way, right? And I think the audience agreed with me at the screening, because everyone's like, woo, Doc Ock, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to clap because you saw Doc Ock. You're supposed to clap because you saw a Green Goblin. The movie's not gonna explain the relationships to you. You're just supposed to come in knowing. But what's cool is they expand on the stuff from there, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we'll get into it. Go ahead.
One of the other ways that this feels like a course correction is the Tony Stark of it all. His name is not brought up once this entire movie, and the only time he is brought up is by Happy at the end, and not
even
name.
by name. Good. I think they say Stark Industries, like,
that box
they
thing.
have to. Yeah,
but like that's it. And
yeah,
it's funny because, and this to me is the biggest show of, okay, this is a course correction, is because a few years ago everyone was telling me, well, Tony Stark was this Spider-Man's Uncle Ben, and his death is what would affect him, and da-da-da-da-da. And they even tried to do a whole movie, Far From Home, about him dealing with the death of his father figure. But it really just amounts to nothing, right? And then this film does it with Aunt May, and it's like, fuck, do I feel it? Well,
you feel where it, yeah,
they had done a better job. I'm saying the film just works so much better, with propelling him as a character due to this death, because it's not just about a mentor figure dying, right? It's not the fact that Uncle Ben died. It's the whole, with great power comes great responsibility, and the way that he died. The fact that Peter Parker sort of let go of his responsibility to help people, and it ended up in a random senseless death that was directly tied to him. His whole thing is like, I can't let that happen again. I now see the consequences of not having that responsibility, so now I'm Spider-Man to prevent that from happening again. You just didn't have that with the whole Tony thing. Here, there is a message that goes with that about helping people, even above, the cost to yourself.
Because even if it was like, if they were trying to do the whole Tony thing being Uncle Ben, it was more like looking up to him, rather than taking what he did as a lesson. You know what I mean?
100%, yeah.
And it didn't work. Like, that's no.
No, it did not work, because it's not Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man is guilt-ridden and depressing. That's sort of the heart of what Spider-Man, but also hopeful in the end. It's at the perfect cross section of depressed as fuck and hopeful, which is why I think so many people connect with him. And I just think that wasn't there at all in the MCU until this film.
But now there's something there that wasn't there before.
Don't do this.
I had to. It was there. You know.
I wasn't here and you still had to do that shit.
I'm sure if he's listening, he'll be happy about it. Yes, Alexis? No,
I think he turned it off
real
at me wanting all of England to beat the shit out of him.
I think you're so right about what it propels, Tom Holland's character into. Alexis, you were gonna say?
I forgot. Continue. I'll remember.
But while we're on that, that's what she's gonna say. She agrees with you. That's what you okay. While we're on the whole issue of Aunt May, I think all the reasons for what you said, or why ultimately it was a great decision, why it works ultimately for Peter Parker's character. However, the moment itself leaves so much to be desired because the previous two films didn't build up, first of all, Aunt May as her own character, or the dynamic between Aunt May and Peter Parker in this franchise. So when she dies, you just feel like there is so much more emotion that was just left on the table, and I couldn't feel all that emotional about it.
To me, it kind of
part of me
felt thrown in there, and like, especially like that line. Like that line is. That's why, like, he is who he is, you know what I mean? And, like, it just felt, like, at least to me, it just felt kind of shoehorned in there. And then I think another thing that really upsets me, which is the thing that I was going to bring up earlier, is she fucking stood up to Green Goblin. Where was this entire time?
The moment she didn't run, I was like... This bitch is dead.
But like, are you joking? Like, this is who we could have had this entire time, and you chose the second she's about to die to show us.
Mm-hmm.
But also, there is a bit of a contradiction there, because in Homecoming, she says to Peter one time, "If you see something going on, you run the other direction."
Yeah, you do not help. If you see anything like that. Dude, yeah, she says that at home. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why I find viewing this as its own weird thing, because it's such a course correction. Because again, you have there are a couple of scenes. It's not a lot, but they do try to show Aunt May as this empathetic person. Where she's like, we need to help these, like, this is who we are. We help.
Where she works.
She works at Feast, which that is from the comics, where she kind of, it's sort of this charity foundation that she helps run and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, no, this is great. This is Aunt May. If only you had done this for 2 other films instead of just make her into a sex joke. Like it's so ridiculous. And it's so weird how they chose this film to start making Spider-Man films.
To give a shit.
Yeah, like I don't get it. I mean, I'm thankful because for a lot of it I do like and I have very much enjoyed, but it's like, what the fuck?
But this moment is an example of a double-edged sword where I love the decision, and I appreciate it that they went for actual like stakes in this, but it also reminds you of how much more you could have felt if they had established that character before the fact. They ended up killing her, which is why before, when we thought that she might be the one to die, again, we were right in that regard. It felt like a cheat because, like, what, really? This one? We barely know who she is.
Yeah. But I will say, I think that the thing that I like about like them doing this is that it brings a new kind of perspective into this Spider-Man, where in the other ones he had nobody, but he had Aunt May, and where in this one he literally has nobody now. Even after her, like, he has his friends or whatever at this moment in time, but like, it's Aunt May, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's a twist on the usual age-old Uncle Ben story.
Right.
Again, that's why it feels like this weird celebration of Spider-Man, because you're supposed to go in, you know the drill, you know the story, and this is sort of like turning it on its head. Fuck, I don't know if I want to say this. It'll be used against me. It's
by who?
You. It's
and
it's something.
Speak your truth.
The Last Jedi, I think, did a lot better, and sort of take your knowledge of Star Wars and turn it on its head in celebration of Star Wars, right? And you see a little bit of that here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Don't look at me like that.
I don't understand how that would be used against you.
Okay. Well, if you don't know, I'm not going to tell you, so go ahead.
Okay. All right. Another aspect of this, and again, we're kind of going through a little bit of the weaker links here. They really did try and make this whole dynamic, and to an extent they do succeed, but to a larger extent, it just kind of reminds you of how these three films didn't do that much, really, because, you know, with the trio that we have here with Peter and Ned and with MJ, again, a lot of the drawback with the film is that their romance for me really is just kind of non-existent for the most part. I mean, they're good actors. They're really good actors, and that's really what gets most of that to make you buy it. But you also don't, because, well, this is a relatively new thing, and you still like. I mean, come on, even we can't even come. There's really nothing to compare this to, really, ultimately.
And it's so crazy because, I mean, I don't know if you guys are keeping up with all the interviews, but they have so much chemistry, like, just in general.
Oh, yeah. The press tour.
And
not Jake's there with the press interviews.
No, obviously they didn't do it at the press interviews.
Continue, Alexis, of what you were saying. I'm just going to ignore that entirely.
What was I saying? It's just so weird that they didn't include more of that in this movie, in any movie. It's just so weird. Literally, in the interviews, they finish each other's sentences. Where's that energy?
We're not just talking about Zendaya and Tom. Also, Jake Batalon is there too. Like they're so.
Hey, it's a
like,
progressive world.
Benedict Cumberbatch was in one of those interviews too.
The consenting adults. So, don't look at me like that.
Anyway, by the way, one of the scenes that actually worked really well in this movie, in terms of humor, was when Peter and MJ got back to the apartment early on in the movie, and we're catching up with like May trying to break up with Happy, and he's like he's not taking it well. He's kind of crying about it. He's not taking it well at all. And then they hear them coming in, and like he's like, I better go check what that noise was. And as they're both like approaching the room, they hear Peter and MJ make
noises.
They're making noises, suggestive noises, and then they open the door, and then of course they catch what they see there. And I love the awkwardness of it, and that humor worked really well. Where, you know, simultaneously, like Happy's like, I didn't see. May's trying to close the door, but then she realizes that's MJ, and so she walks in and introduces herself in the middle of all of this. All the while, Peter notices that they just broke up, and so they go into the living room, and it continues on. And then May's like, "Why are you so awkward about sex, Peter?" And then Peter's like, "This is not about sex." And then she actually gets Happy to like, okay, I guess I can redo the whole like talk. So, like, he tries to have the talk again. Or at like the sex talk with Peter. All the while, like helicopters are swooping around.
I think it's all
their apartment.
Too, right?
It is, yeah.
I didn't want to talk about this yet, but there are not the whole film, but there are moments throughout the film. Like I said before, it's like this isn't just generic MCU style. There's a little bit more.
You have to wonder maybe if Watts tried a little bit more to do maybe his own style on things this time around. Because the last two movies, again, nothing really interesting.
So stale films. And here there are moments where I'm like, this is a lot better. Some of the action scenes, specifically with the Goblin, it's like, oh shit, where was this? You know, some good shit. But yeah, talking about like Ned, really all the main characters and their relationship to each other. This is the first film where they started to work for me, which can be difficult because it's also the third film. So I agree.
Hey, third time's what was it? Third time's the charm.
So it's weird for that to be a negative, right? Like to me, it's more of a negative with Homecoming and Far From Home. So it's hard for me to say it's finally starting to work, and that's a ding against you movie, when this is the movie where it's working, and the other films are the ones where it's not working, right? So
I think the moments where it worked for me, and I think this as a scene was actually kind of gutting too, because when you're a teenager, that is one of the most like, it is kind of the end of the world when they're all together and they all realize that they're not getting into MIT, and then just the collective like devastation. I felt that, and it was actually like, just like, oh my god, this fucking
fuck
sucks.
them. Go to community college.
One of them did, or is going to.
Getting his GED.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. And that, but you're right though. I think this is the movie where it starts to work. Them being a team, because really, this is the first movie where they kind of are a team. The last two, they really weren't.
Homecoming, it was Peter and Ned, and that was cute. I think that worked. Again, so much of that film, I think, is cool because it's the first time you're seeing this version of Spider-Man that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
But then also there's this promise of like they're gonna flesh everything out later on, but then they kind of don't, so it's annoying. But him and Ned work together, and then in Far From Home, Ned is just a one punchline joke the entire film. He's really not around that much, and then neither is Zendaya really. Because the whole movie is him pining for her attention, and she's sort of like this object in the distance. But there's also no real, what's the word? Tension to
Dynamic?
it. Because we already know she likes him.
Yeah.
From Homecoming. There's no tension. Because the second he says he likes her, we know she's going to be like, oh my god, me too. So yeah, like they're dynamic. They weren't ever really a team until this film.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the best thing in this film, okay? Fucking the villains. Specifically one villain, but the villains. Alfred Molina was great. And what really worked for me is, and I think it's all the actors really, they feel like they just popped out of. It does feel like you took the characters and popped them out of their old movies and they just threw them into this one.
And that was a major concern on several of our parts going into the film for different reasons. You know, there was an argument to be made like, okay, so John Watts is taking characters from Sam Raimi's movies, but how is he going to make them feel like they're Sam Raimi's characters when it's John Watts making this movie? They, of course, because they traveled to the multiverse, there are some aspects of their attire that are a little bit different. They even make a joke how Jamie Foxx looks different in this because of, they traveled through universes, so there is that. But there was reason to think that they wouldn't be or wouldn't feel exactly the same as they did from their older films. And I think one of the biggest things that is a success in this film is how much, as you just said, they're plucked from those movies and they're just dumped on here and they feel exactly the same. And I think that has to be mostly the actors.
Yeah.
And particularly Molina and Dafoe, who literally, they feel like they stepped off the sets of Spider-Man or Spider-Man 2. It's crazy, honestly, how like they feel so much like those characters.
Yeah, I agree. I forgot about Doc Ock's ending. So another.
That's why it helps to go back and watch the movies before the fact. Because then he starts talking about the energy or the power of the sun, and he's looking for his machine, and that whole bridge scene with Peter, that was pretty good.
No, yeah. But I forgot that in the end he turns good.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
See, Toby didn't need a fucking machine to turn him good. He just needed a powerful
He used the
speech.
power words.
Mm-hmm. He used his words.
Yeah.
The strongest weapon in the world.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could say that, there is a bit of a retread, but because of what happens, I guess there kind of had to be with Doc Ock in that situation there. But here, like, going back to what I was saying, when Doc Ock gets into this movie, it's like, okay, here we go. But for as much as we've been critical about, especially in general, MCU, like, choreography and action sequences, and then also how lackluster they've been in the last two Spider-Man films, this sequence was pretty wow, considering, how we thought, really, from an action standpoint, this film wasn't going to offer very much.
Looking at the trailers, it's like the only thing they had locked in early on.
Right.
Yeah, no, it was pretty good.
It was really good.
Yeah.
It wasn't directed by Sam Raimi, but it was pretty good. No, I definitely enjoyed it. The action scenes, for the most part, which there's actually not too many in the film.
Which, yeah.
But for the most part, again, were a much bigger improvement than I had thought. I was like, this is a lot better than I had assumed it would be.
It's very aggressive.
I love that.
Particularly, I think what excels in the film in general, but also as far as action, is the hand-to-hand combat, which I didn't expect.
They went full WWE, and it was fucking great. But, like, people forget how the end of the first Spider-Man, Tobey Spider-Man versus Green Goblin, it's fucking brutal.
Yeah.
Like, he just wails on him. They have that slow motion, like...
Godspeed, Spider-Man. And
where the blood, like fucking Rocky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really brutal, and I'm so glad they brought that to this film.
Yeah, I mean...
Especially with that character.
Yes.
Yeah, especially with that character. Like... There are two big instances of that hand-to-hand combat, really working with Goblin and Peter Parker fighting back and forth and everything. But in particular, the one that just made me go like, my jaw was just on the ground, just like when Goblin just picked up Peter Parker and then they just slammed through several floors of concrete.
Yeah. He didn't just do that, right? Like, he threw him up, hit the ceiling, then grabbed his legs and fucking dove straight down like several floors, like some crazy ass shit.
And it's like it's cool because like both of them got a chance to beat the shit out of each other, because in like there's that one and then the last one where he's just like pow, pow, pow.
Oh yeah, and
he's just smiling.
Oh, everyone has pointed this out, but that part, like, he's so good. He's so creepy. When he's just
my favorite, I think like the whole Green Goblin in the whole movie is amazing. But I think my favorite moment was when he has his back towards the camera and then he says, I can't remember the line, but he says one line in the Green Goblin voice and everybody's just like, oh shit.
That's when but that's also a really good sequence when his spider sense starts to set off, and he's just like walking through the room and he's just trying to figure out like what's going on, like who is it, and it's tense, and it's well done, and then that's when he like he webs up some and again, just like fucking 10-year-old me to see that version of the Green Goblin and that version of Dr. Octopus interacting with each other is like a fucking dream come true. That's some stuff where it's like the nostalgia shit got me, like just seeing them.
But it works here too.
And because I think they sort of add character stuff to it and I don't know, it just works.
It does.
Like when
Yeah.
we haven't talked about it yet, but when Toby and Doc Ock speak to each other, it's fan service, but it's fan service that fucking works. I'm sorry.
That not only was it, yes, it's that, but it is genuinely moving too. You know, just seeing it both times, right? Like Doc Ock basically saying, "You've grown up," or Peter, "You've grown up," and then like, and I it was also that what Toby said to Melina was also something that I think it was a line that was lifted from the movies, trying to do better, or just trying to do better.
Yeah,
from his own movies.
No, the villain stuff worked for me.
I will say, the parts where they are catching all the villains and sending them to that one place, which I already told Alexis, I thought that part was kind of boring.
You mean when he goes out and he's trying to capture all of them?
Yeah.
It's really only one scene. It's when he tries to get Electro.
Sandman but like the scenes where they're in like the little incubators and like
where they're talking to each other. I liked them talking to each other.
Like
that stuff I think worked.
It did. I don't know how many more watchings I can take and it'd be like, without like skipping or fast forwarding through those exchanges.
It immediately felt like that to me.
I've only seen the movie once.
I have too.
I don't know.
Well, I've saw it twice, so I would say like even the second time, it's like, okay, I get the point here. Like I like seeing Melina and Defoe talking, but everybody else like, okay, I get it. Can we move on to the next thing? So I understand that.
I kind of like them figuring out like, oh, like everyone here died. Everyone here is supposed to die. Oh shit, this is my fate. Because what I like is, I thought, this is what I assumed, and I'm glad it wasn't this, is that they're immediately going to go Sinister Six, and we're like, we're bad guys, it's what we do. And then they just fucking team up and try to kill Tom Holland for one reason or another. What I like is like, no, like they all have various different goals, obviously, and they're all smart enough to go, hey, I don't want to die, so maybe this whole curing thing that he's come up with, let's go along with it, let's see where it gets us. And it's not just immediately like they show up and they start stabbing each other. Because they're characters, right? So it's interesting to me, because they're characters, it's interesting to see them bounce off each other.
Yeah, to that point, with Peter in particular, one of the things that we were somewhat frustrated, at least going into it, was that he would really be that gullible to believe them. But the choice for him to actually like have the empathy that he has to want to have an outcome where they all can live, that wasn't something I was expecting, and I like how that was handled instead of him being tricked and then him coming off as stupid.
Yeah. Because to me, that's also very much in line with what Spider-Man is about and which it should be about. It's about trying to save people at great personal cost, but you do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. Right? Like that's at the heart of what Spider-Man is. So to make the main plot revolve around that, I think I was like, wow, I didn't expect this, and that's a good thing.
Going back a couple of things, I love how the whole I guess they call it the tingle here, or the Spidey sense. I love how that's handled visually anyway, and then also from a sound design standpoint, that was really well done. Like finally they're doing something with
That's
that.
another thing where it's like, I think they used it like once in
Far From Home?
Not even Far From Home, Infinity War.
Oh yeah.
I don't think they used it in Far From Home.
It did. It was a constant thing, but it wasn't
a joke
presented
in
anything.
the second movie.
tingle.
They
Peter
joked
tingle.
about it, but they didn't actually do anything.
He used it
Did
though
he?
to beat.
Oh,
he
yeah.
used it to beat
I
Mysterio.
guess.
I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Technically, that's what he
so
did.
much of
Yeah.
the film was fucking forgettable. But yeah, that's I agree. The visual of he's almost like
Going like, oh shit.
it's collapsing in on himself.
David read something. So you know that scene. I mean, I don't really know how it would work, but where Doctor Strange like kind of pushes his thingy, his like astral projection self out.
Yeah.
And he's like trying to get the cube thing that apparently that's the Spidey senses being like, nope.
Oh,
I had
moving it
assumed
back
that
and forth,
yeah,
subconsciously.
the first time I was not necessarily sure about what was going on in that moment, but I think the second time I kind of figured out that was supposed to be his Spidey sense doing the whole thing, because that's the first time we've seen that, where he's like his astro projectoral version was like, you know, ripped out of his body, but he was still able to make his way back into it. That's different. Real quick, because I didn't get a chance to say much more on Norman Osborn. Dude, Willem Dafoe. I don't know what more there is to say, but like, even the lines that they gave him were just classic Goblin that Raimi would have given him. You know, like, I think in the third act when he comes back and he like in his Goblin voice says, "Can the Spider-Man come out and play or come out to play?" Or even when he reveals himself in the apartment, you know, when Peter figures out what's going on. And he kind of like, "Norman's on sabbatical, honey." Like that, just like, oh my God. It's so good. And to me, it's also just evident, all the evidence you need that villains like that can, like, it's so crazy how, you know, on one aspect of it, Defoe's performance is all camp, but it really isn't all camp, because there is just this sinister level of intimidation underneath that is, it's just crazy how, you know, he's able to have that duality to it, but also like those are the best kind of villains, you know? And I think you see that on display here. Like, just the level that we're operating with his Green Goblin can't really be touched, really.
Yeah.
It's definitive now. To me, it was always, but for everyone else, it is now. He's great, and you had shared it. That motherfucker is still doing his own stunts.
Yeah.
That was a great clip. And he said, "I'm something of a stuntman myself." When that was going around when he's that whole clip was wonderful to see. I know you said that they got one, but they literally borrowed the whole line from the first movie where he's like, "You know, I'm something of a scientist myself." That reaction was just from the crowd
That's the one
hilarious.
time I groaned in the movie theater.
But it was funny. But it was funny though, just to see.
Because even in the movie itself, the way they set it up, he even held it out a little longer. He's like, you know, because so the audience would be like, "Oh, I'm something of a scientist myself," and it's like, oh God. That I will say, that kind of shit pulls me out of the movie. Also, like the power of the sun in the palm of my hand, because people aren't action figures, right? Like, they don't have phrases that they just always repeat randomly. So when they just keep pulling fan favorite lines from the old movies, that's the kind of nostalgia I don't like. Like, create new memorable lines for them, but when, to me, they feel less like a character and more like an action figure. You know, with 8 unique phrases, it feels more like that to me. But yeah, that was the only time I groaned in the movie theater. especially because everyone fucking ate it up so hard.
They did, and I was also surprised. The first real big, like, massive, like, swelling applause. There were applause before the fact, but when Goblin showed up in his full getup, people went ape shit. I was like, whoa.
That laugh.
Mine was Daredevil.
Daredevil.
The laugh.
But that
Daredevil
one was kind
more
of
a surprise,
funny.
yeah.
That one was funny because I feel like I didn't even, like,
Register
have a
it.
chance to react.
That scene happened so fast. Like, by the time people stopped clapping, it was over.
Screaming as soon as the stupid cane came up, and I was like, "What the fuck's going on?" And then I saw him, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
With the two biggest characters in Marvel and DC, the one at Marvel is Spider-Man, and the one at DC is Batman. And if Batman has the Joker, Spider-Man has the Green Goblin, right? Like, to me, he is that top tier villain, but he doesn't have like a million iterations like the Joker, and it's sort of this whole thing. Again, to me, Defoe's Green Goblin was always like a level amazing tier. But now being in the third highest grossing opening of all time, beating out Infinity War, hopefully more people will recognize not only the respect Defoe's Green Goblin deserves, but really the character Green Goblin as a whole. Because he's the one that's...
He's a bitch.
He's a bitch.
He's a... Yeah. He really is. He's a fucking diva. He just comes in and wrecks shit. He's the one that just fucking comes in, destroys Peter Parker's life, and then laughs about it as he flies away throwing bombs everywhere. He's very extra, but he's great.
But yeah, I know Alexis mentioned it, but when he when he's laughing while he's being punched by Peter or whatever, that, oh god, that's...
And the laugh is
wow.
so good. It's perfect. Yeah, no, it's awesome.
Did you guys like the new costume? I was not a big fan of the goggles. I thought it made him look a little bit weird. But the rest is fine.
I like the purple hoodie.
Yeah,
that gets beaten away to like the hood. I like that was cool. And there's like sort of like more purple around him. It's hard to see. Actually, there's a really good there's been good images of like the art that make it look really, you get a better view of it and it looks really cool. I'll share that to you guys right now. But on the whole, I liked it. Like, I'm such a stickler. I thought maybe if they could get his face green, I'd be a little just because he's the green guy. Get the face, make him completely green.
Yeah.
Like still have his face.
I was really shocked that they got rid of the first costume like instantly.
I get it, especially because he's so expressive.
Yeah.
And he already has a goblin face. Like, my only issue is that it's not green. Just green him up a little bit, and then I would have been like perfect. But I mean, I liked it. I like the purple. I like how it looks all like makeshift a little bit more. It's cool. It's a different.
Well, with all of that being said, shall we just go ahead and get into the Spider-Man of it all? You know, the people that kind of hop in.
Before that, we have to talk about Ned. I feel like we talked about Ned, but we didn't talk about Ned.
You know what? That's something that I
Is there anything to talk about in that?
Well, there's one aspect of it that we kind of went overlooked, and that is, I guess he's magic?
It's convenience.
I thought it was because of the ring that he was wearing.
Well, at the very beginning, it's this throwaway joke where he's talking to Doctor Strange when they first go to the Sanctum Sanctorum, and he's like, "Oh, like, hey, Doc, like, are there any guidelines to know if you got magic in you? Because my family, has always said that they, we've got some magic in us, and da 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 da. And it's like a joke or whatever. And then it's kind of assumed that like Ned was right. He does have some magic in his lineage or something, and that's why he's able to do the whole open portal stuff. The reality is they needed someone to open the portal that wasn't Doctor Strange to let in the 2 Spider-Men. That's why it is. Nothing more.
And it probably will go nowhere.
Yes. I hope it goes nowhere. Because I hope Ned goes nowhere. Not because I hate the character, but because I want the Spider-Man to permanently lose everything.
Well, that ending is, I guess we'll get to that first since we already mentioned it, right? So that ending really worked for me, though. And it was actually surprising as well, because this is the most loss that he's had to deal with as a character, and that feels a lot like OG Peter Parker. It's the most Peter Parker he's ever felt like, especially when he's making, the decisions that he's made, right? Which was, I think with me, one of the most moving moments in the movie, and this really just speaks to how good Tom is. You see just the look in his eyes when he makes the decision to not even attempt to remind MJ or Ned about the fact that they were friends and their memories.
I thought we were gonna wait, but since you brought it up, that scene
you brought it up, so we're gonna go there.
That scene is so unbelievably good.
It is
because they don't spell it out. It's all in the acting, and it's all in the what it shows you, right? So he sees them happy. They're going to the college of their dreams. They have their futures. They're doing good. And, he's looking at MJ. He's like, oh my God, it's her. And they're talking. And then he's almost ready to tell her. And then she brushes back her head and he sees the Band-Aid. And it's not, they don't explicitly say it, but it's basically him being reminded of what having her in his life did to her. And it without, again, all through the acting, all through the face acting, he makes the decision to not put them in harm's way, to let them live their happily ever after, even if that means him losing them as the only 2 people left he had in this world. Fantastic. I thought
that's a classic Spidey move.
It was so good, I thought. I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did too. Now, before we get to that, so I guess we should talk about Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, right? We're like almost 2.5 hours into this and we haven't mentioned them yet, but let's go a little bit, but getting into them being in this movie. So the audience lost their damn minds when this happened. Like,
I forgot it was
you wouldn't
gonna
believe
happen.
It. You did?
Did you?
Yeah. I totally forgot. And then when we see the silhouette, I was like, oh yeah, that's I didn't think it was him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came out and I was like, oh shit, I forgot. this is a thing. But it was pretty fucking cool.
I will say this. I like what they did with the characters.
I like that they were in a lot of it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like, oh hey,
the last battle.
They didn't just pop in at the very end and be like, we're Spider-Man, let's that's it. There was a lot of character to them. There was a lot of good moments with them. The most surprising thing to me is I dug Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
I think
but
I think he's different than from the way he was in his other movies. I think he's not a lot, but he's definitely goofier and a little bit more, wears his emotions on his sleeve. which is, don't give that look. He played it
Okay.
very differently in his films.
Okay.
And I ended up actually enjoying him a lot more than I expected to, and also just a lot more than when I saw him in his own films. I was like, oh, that's cool, because I do like the actor Andrew Garfield. So I really dug him in this film, and I was surprised by that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I didn't care about him at all. I think his version of Peter Parker in his movies came off like a bully to me.
Yeah, he came off just
I
like
think
a
that
dick too much.
Again, that was the writing and that was the direction that really screwed it all up. But also the way that he acted it, it was fine. I mean, I'm not saying he was bad acting as Peter Parker in his movies. I'm saying like everything else around him, the characterization was just so poor. It was kind of a misfire altogether. And so here, it doesn't feel like that same version of Peter Parker to me. It just doesn't. But I think that's a good thing because I didn't like that old version of Peter Parker, at least his Peter Parker anyway. And they do say that, you know, since after the Amazing Spider-Man 2, he did go on a different path, although it's his demeanor is a bit more light than I remember it being, but then he also says that he stopped pulling his punches after he lost Gwen, which is an interesting dichotomy of sorts. Again, this is a Peter Parker
Well, I think that's when he's already gone through that.
Right, yeah. It's after the fact.
The aftermath of that. And they have that one scene with him that everyone predicted would be, and it was there, where he's the one to save MJ. And again, on paper, this is another thing where I'm like rolling my eyes and groaning. But within the film, what makes it work is Andrew Garfield's acting.
Yeah.
Like
I actually like that on paper and seeing it on screen. I was excited because I truly do think that he's the best Spider-Man, and
a lot of people feel that way.
Like that was like the scene. Like, if anything, like, that's the scene from his movies.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the fact that he was gonna be able to, like, change the outcome that he couldn't in his own story made me emotional. And then when I saw it on screen, that was that scene, and then the scene where they're saying goodbye, like, the three of them are like, the scenes that made me emotional.
Yeah, him breaking down at saving MJ was kind of perfect, really.
It was really good.
That's what sold it, was him and his reaction to it. And that made it believable ultimately. What do we make of Toby's entrance? First of all, both of them are kind of like when Ned is using the whole Doctor Strange portals and then them walking into it. That was kind of fun, seeing everybody's reaction to it. But also with Toby, he also felt just as much as he did in the other films.
I
so much time
was very
away.
surprised by Toby because I honestly thought it was just gonna be like
phoning it in.
Yeah, because I kind of see him like Daniel Radcliffe
because they look alike.
No, but like, I mean, he's doing like the reunion that's coming out and stuff, but like you could tell that he's just kind of tired of.
They moved on, basically.
Yeah, and that's how I feel Toby is, and the fact that he agreed to be in this movie very much surprised me, and the fact that he did I think he did a really good job, and with like what he had and stuff, like I thought it was great.
I think he, like his villains, really did feel like they just came right out of the films. Like the way he talked, the things he said. Yeah, he felt like that Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. And
he hasn't really been acting in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And he just stepped back into it like nothing.
And he has a moment similar to him where he stops Tom Holland from killing the Goblin, and similarly, all through the face, the acting, he gives him a look, and I'm like, I know what he's.
I was like, move out the fucking way! Why are you standing there?
You don't turn your back to that
dude.
guy.
I literally was like this, and because I sat by myself, And the two people I literally covered my eyes, and the two people next to me were like, "What?" And I'm like, "Bitch, what do you mean what?"
When he got stabbed, people legit were pissed. They were like, "What the fuck?" People got scared.
Low-key kind of wish they would have gone through it just to see what would have happened, but kind of glad they didn't.
Yeah. That's interesting.
That scene though, yeah, when that was one of my favorite scenes in the film, when they're consoling Tom's Peter Parker about like when and it starts off with, I think, Toby saying, "For me it was Uncle Ben."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was a really good scene. It was a really great Spider-Man scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that it was Toby who was the one who jumped in and stopped him. Because again, this, I think this only works, like I said, if you're just complete knowledge of Spider-Man. It's just like a celebration of all these stories. Because,
and you know what? I didn't even think about that people had not seen the other movies.
So much of a nerd. Like, of course everyone has seen every Spider-Man film ever made. Why wouldn't you? There are no Alexis Sotos out there. But again, if you go back to Spider-Man 3, his whole thing in that film was learning to forgive, and sort of the anger and the destruction that comes with vengeance isn't worth it. So the fact that he's the one that jumps in front and stops him from going that far, I think it's perfect. I think it works so well.
Yeah, and it's also just like, if you're a fan of those movies, just the resolution you have here. He helps cure Flint Marko, from that same movie, and then of course that whole exchange that he has with Otto Octavius, and then he finally gets to cure Norman Osborn, which he mentions at some point in the movie that he had.
I've been thinking about this
for a long time. The one scene where I think this is the moment where I thought this whole thing got away from itself was, it starts off, I think, with Toby cracking his back. That whole conversation was way too meta for its own good. Like, it didn't even feel like the characters. It felt like
that's
the actors.
The Marvel writers. They're like, we need a scene. Get us some jokes.
It felt like they were written by fans.
That was so stupid.
Like, in the worst way possible. I mean, like, that was to me the most cringe-inducing sequence of the movie. Just listen to that conversation. The only part about it that I thought was funny was when Tom's Peter was asking Toby if the webs come out of another part of his body.
I thought the back stuff was kind of funny, just because, like, again, they're older Spider-Men. It's like, oh yeah, you do physical stuff. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, I gotta pop your back. But then they do this thing. It feels like they're riffing, and it's like, pull it back, guys. Yeah. Hey, it's all
like when he kept saying, you're amazing. You're amazing. The guy that was in the Amazing Spider-Man movie. It's like, oh, okay, guys. No, we don't need this. I don't want this.
Which is weird, because they did have quite a bit of interactions before that moment where I'm like, yeah, this works. Like when Toby is talking to Andrew, and because Andrew Garfield is looking at them, Tom Holland and MJ, and he's kind of got a sadness to them, and they talk about like their relationship status and like what's going on with them. There's stuff that works, right? When Ned's like, I'll never turn into a supervillain and try to kill you. And it's like, yeah, that's funny, and all that stuff works. But for some reason, I don't know if they just didn't have anything, and they're like, guys, just play off each other. Let's see what we got.
Or they couldn't help themselves.
Yeah. Or the MCU machine, you gotta bring in those writers that are pump up some jokes to throw in there. Yeah.
The lab scene I thought was kind of fun.
Yeah, no, I like
that was good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was just that other scene that was pretty. Yeah. What did we make of that whole battle on the Statue of Liberty?
It was okay.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I like the location because Spider-Man's all about New York. So at the Statue of Liberty, it's like awesome. Landmark, cool. To me, what I liked about the battle was that it was about saving them, right? So they're working together to try to corner them, to use their devices, that they use science to find cures for all of their different ailments. That angle is what I liked about everything. But like the action itself, it's not really action. They're like running around, kind of. Mm-hmm. The real action is the final fight between
Osborn and
Holland, and that shit rocks.
That was really good. It does. That was so good.
Yeah.
Well, I think what did you make of the whole? I don't know what there is even is to say about Strange closing or casting the spell finally, that whole sequence.
I liked seeing, you could see other villains, their silhouettes as they were coming through.
I felt like I was trying to see all of them and I didn't see any of them, but I
couldn't
kind of
make out who they were. Did you make out any of them?
I saw the Scorpion, I saw Rhino, but like the classic looking Rhino, where he's in a suit with the horn, not the fucking Amazing Spider-Man 2 one. And Scorpion, where he literally looks like a scorpion, like that version. I think if you go back and pause, you'll see a lot of other ones, but those were the two big ones that popped up to me. So it's like, okay, specifically, this universe will be overrun with an infinite number of Spider-Man villains, and possibly quite a few Aunt Mays. Because I think it's everyone that knows he's Spider-Man, right?
Yeah,
that was neat. Again, Doctor Strange is just there to facilitate the magic and nothing more, and I am 100% okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you make of the score though? Because there was Giacchino's score. I know, Peter, you've never really liked before. But here he tries to apply more operatic takes with it, especially in that moment when when Strange is casting the spell. But then also, in doing a play on his Spider-Man theme, slowing it down a little bit, making it more tragic.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I'm not sure how much of it is the music's better, or they tried a little bit more, or they used a lot of better music from other films that are better. So
they didn't use much music from the other movies.
They used Doc Ock's theme, they used the old Spider-Man theme, they used the Goblin
sparingly. It's barely there.
Okay. But yes, the music is better.
I'm not sure what more we can say, but that costume at the end.
The ending. We could talk about the ending.
Yes.
He's finally Spider-Man in the last
2 minutes.
The last 2 minutes of the third Spider-Man film in the MCU. He finally, in my eyes, becomes Spider-Man. He is alone in the world, in New York City, in a shitty apartment, just trying to make the city a better place. When that final swing, that's also a thing. He finally gets a final swing. Really well done. Again, that's where the music, more operatic, as you say. The costume is perfection.
Oh my God.
I love that costume.
The costume is really good.
Yeah.
Because it all, to me, it's all coming together, right? He's in the apartment. He's alone. He's poor. He's looking at police scanners. He has a homemade costume. He's in the big city. It's like everything's lining up, and this is his fate now, right? It's depressing but hopeful, and that is the hard fight.
Disagree.
Really, you don't like the ending?
I don't think it's hopeful at all.
It is hopeful.
No, it is hopeful
he's
because
Spider-Man.
Okay.
to me, what I don't know, like the promise of what is to come next is what I find to be hopeful.
I almost have, again, I'm gonna bring it up, a sort of Last Jedi approach to that ending, where you know what comes next because it's set up in a very specific way. For me, it's not about what comes next. It's about knowing this is who he is. This is Spider-Man. This is what it means. In the same way the ending of Last Jedi was sort of that way, I kind of feel that same way here. And that's why the final swing feels so triumphant. And again, we didn't talk about it, but when he went to visit Aunt May's grave and his sort of little talk with Happy Hogan, it basically reaffirms, like, Aunt May was a good person. She was a genuinely good person, and she believed in helping others. And his whole thing is, like, it feels like with her dead, that belief is sort of snuffed out of the world. And he turns to him and he kind of says, like, I disagree. Because he is that belief. He's the culmination of it. Everything he does as Spider-Man is because of it. And that's why, to me, it's hopeful in a sense.
Do you think this movie was made with everybody thinking they may not make another one with Tom Holland? Or in the MCU?
I'm fine with it, this being the ending, because I like where I actually like a lot of people, again, like this as a starting point. I actually like this as an ending. But yes, I think there was a lot of back and forth at Marvel and Sony where it's like, are we still working together? I don't know. And you can tell with that post-credit scene with fucking Venom, where it was very much up in the air what the fuck was going on, you know.
I very much saw it as like they weren't gonna continue, and I didn't like that he was alone. Like, I get it, he himself as a character is supposed to be like this kind of hopeful character, but I don't know, I just think that the way that it ended, and when I got out of the theater, I was like, wasn't sure if they were gonna make more or not. And I was like, and this is how you want to end it? Like, with your character being completely alone?
Yes.
I hated that.
I loved
because even though I liked, again, before, when I said that I liked Aunt May dying and him not having Aunt May, but at that moment, he still had Zendaya, he still had the other guy, and at this moment, he didn't. Mm-hmm. And it's like, but he always has at least like one thing to kind of keep him going. And I hate that in this one, he just doesn't.
I think he does have that one thing, and that he knows who he is, and he's a hero, and he's a good person, and he's trying to help out.
For me, that's not
else.
enough.
It's not like his future's over. You see the school books, right? Like, to me, it's not like his life is over. His life will continue. It's just,
it's gonna continue, but it's not like
new people. It's not like he's just like a hermit, like living alone. Like, for me, it's sort of just saying goodbye to that chapter of his life.
I agree with that, but then at the same time, and this may be, I don't know if it's better for you and then worse for Peter. Better for you, Alexis, and worse for Peter, but like, it's hard to imagine there are not going to be 3 more of these movies with Peter Parker, and then because Sony, after all the money that's been made,
there is going to be more.
Yeah, if it's good, I'll watch it.
But in the moment that I got out of the theater, I was like, this is the end. Like,
right.
Great.
It's also harder to believe that Zendaya ain't coming
now,
back.
That
guys.
would
That's
piss
the
me
thing.
off. I like where it ended. He made a decision where he's like, I'm gonna let you be happy.
But it's his
What,
MJ,
kid?
Peter.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine that's not going to
what
be
makes it so
undone at some point.
devastating that he gives up his MJ.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
disagree with that. I'm just saying it's hard to imagine them
I know,
not
I
doing
agree.
that.
I'm just voicing my disappointment preemptively.
Well, at least we have this, which is something of an outcome I didn't anticipate.
Everyone
overall with this
wants
movie.
Sir Timothy to be a Harry Osborn,
Mhm.
which I think is really funny. But I don't think he would ever do it.
I think he would. 100.
I think
Especially if he's playing a villain. 100% would. I don't think he would play a hero.
I mean, he's literally said before that a seasoned actor gave him advice, and one of the advice was to never do a Marvel film.
I 100% think that he would. Like, if he got an interesting role and maybe like a one thing,
But
I think that he would.
can I tell you why I'm also okay with this feeling like a definitive end? Like, this Peter Parker's still gonna go on, but like this story is over, is because we've already done Green Goblin. We've already done Doc Ock. We've done all his greatest villains. We've done the Osborn. We did it all in this one fucking movie, right? Like, he's faced them all. So to go back and then sort of redo it again, I don't know.
How does that work?
I don't feel great about that. The only other major Spider-Man villain I can think of that they can get into, well, for one, they can go the Venom route again. Kraven the Hunter. And then beyond that, like,
If they want to get real serious, they are going to have Kingpin at their disposal
see,
now.
that would be a good one.
Mhm.
That would be a good one. If the next movie or even trilogy of movies, you have Kingpin, Daredevil, and that more street level type stuff, that's great. I think that's perfect, especially because like Green Goblin villain who came in and worked so well, D'Onofrio as Kingpin started off somewhere else, killed it, and now is coming over here. So you have sort of the same situation.
Mhm.
I don't see why it wouldn't work a second time.
I think that would be really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, no. I'd be 100% out for that.
Yeah. So there's all of that. I don't know what more I can say.
Final thoughts?
I liked it. I liked it quite a bit.
Oh. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I probably... I don't know if I will see it a third time, but I'll try and make it a third time, maybe. We'll see.
I was going to say, leading up to the release of this film, I had been liking One Too Many movies for everyone's liking here. And I had said I would have only truly lost it if I came out of Spider-Man No Way Home and ended up liking the film. I don't know. Commit me to the insane asylum because I liked the film. I guess I've gone soft. I've lost it. I don't know. But I also think this movie was better in surprising ways than I thought it would be. It did surprise me in a lot of ways. Yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed it. Oh, and you wanted us to rank them, right? Did you guys rank them? Okay.
I think I did. Let me get out my phone here. Oh, are you going to go last? Is
No,
that waiting
I
for
can
me
go
to...
first if you want. Because I know you don't. You're
let me
tired
see
of
here.
going first.
I have at the... Okay, I have it here. This one's pretty easy for me. At number... How many movies are there?
1, 2, 3. Oh wait, shit. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I have 9.
8, 9. Yeah, 9.
Okay. At number 9, The Amazing Spider-Man
Yes.
2. At number 8, The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes.
7, Far From Home. 6, Homecoming.
Yes.
5, No Way Home.
Yes.
4, Spider-Man 3. 3, Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
2, Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
And 1, Spider-Man 2.
Okay. Literally, the only difference is I have Spider-Man is second and Into the Spider-Verse is third. That's the only difference.
But we're kind of, that's weird. We're pretty much identical.
I will say, I've only seen Spider-Man No Way Home once. If I feel less about it, it'll probably stay right where it's at. Or if I feel the same about it, it'll stay right where it's at. If it grows on me, it could overtake Spider-Man 3. It's possible.
For me, I have all these movies fresh in my mind. And I can definitely say that it would be hard for me to see that No Way Home slips below Homecoming or Far From Home. At the same time, it would be a surprise if No Way Home goes above 3, because 3 is just a beautifully made movie all around.
It's a Sam Raimi film. Yeah.
Speaking of Sam Raimi,
oh,
what do you guys think of his next movie?
Oh, wait, real quick. The whole Venom thing, I love that because it was a slap in the face to all of those people. I love that moment so much.
In the audience, you could audibly hear people go like, "That's it."
I loved the disappointment. I loved it. I loved it so much. It was a massive Thank you for giving me that, Marvel.
To anyone who is a fan of those films, which is apparently a lot of people because it makes so much fucking money. And then the trailer
that to me felt like revenge.
Brilliant. And then the trailer for Doctor Strange. I don't know. That movie seems to be an even larger clusterfuck than this movie was said to be. Like way more so. And apparently do you care? This isn't like a major spoiler, but it's a semi-spoiler.
Who are you talking to?
You.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
She's never once cared about a spoiler in her life.
I thought you were talking to him. He cares more.
Wanda is pretty villainous within the film. And apparently the issues they were having was Sam Raimi was kind of embracing his horror roots and kind of taking it pretty far with her. And she making it she goes on a kind of a blood-soaked kind of thing going on, and apparently they were like, whoa, take a fucking chill pill, Sam. and I think they wanted to pull back on a lot of that and then also add a fuck ton more cameos. That's what they said a lot of the reshoots are for. And what bothers me, if this was just straight up just a Sam Raimi film, I'd be like, yes, all in. But right now, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that film. I don't even know what it's about. Like, I
know.
It's about cameos.
Apparently.
Dude, literally.
It's about cameos.
Like, you could see that. I mean, obviously, like, the whole Spider-Man movie pretty much got leaked because people fucking suck. But you could kind of tell what they were going for with all the cameos. But here,
what's the story? Like, what's it about? What for me, what made No Way Home eventually work for me was the fact that at the heart of it, it's this story with Tom Holland Spider-Man. Like, that's clear, and it comes through. What is Doctor Strange about? Like, what is it?
Yeah.
His character going through? What? I have no idea.
Yeah.
All I know is, like, it's cameos, the movie, and it was supposed to be horror at one point, at least horror adjacent. And now I don't know. Yeah, I need more than that trailer because I have no idea what the fuck this movie is supposed to be.
I don't know.
Our girl Grace will get on it. She'll leak some shit.
She always leaks it, or she always gets like the scoops, as they say.
That's one thing I'll defend her in. She does, like, I know people attack her, but she very clearly does get good scoops.
And when she's proven to be right,
no one says,
crickets.
yeah.
So, guys, I guess at 3 hours, we're just going to go ahead and wrap it up, right?
We always do go almost 3 hours, and it's your fault.
But this time we actually hit 3
Yeah.
hours. 3 hours for 3 people. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for listening. See, this is proof that even though we could be, negative and pessimistic about a movie leading up to it, this is an example of us, or I think this is proof of us having open minds and letting a film, just be, and then coming out positive on it.
Yeah. But
It's
it's
proof that
also
not-
proof
yeah.
that we go in open-minded. We
Yeah.
love the movie, whatever it is. That's what it is. That's how we feel.
And that we're not 100% negative.
Well, at least I'm not.
Also, stay tuned. We have reviews for The Matrix and Nightmare Alley coming up. Stay tuned here. Stay under our spotlight. Have a Merry Christmas, by the way, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.